looking at myself up there.
There we go. Well, that was quick.
That was quick.
Wow.
That was instant.
All
Over
right.
here on the corner.
Just for the record, say
looking at
these
myself.
chairs are too low. All right. Calling the meeting order at 6 o'clock on the nose. Welcome to the Nashoba Regional School Committee regular meeting of October 24th, 2018. Tonight is our school choice public hearing. So we are going to start with the public hearing. Open the public hearing. We do this based on policy JFBB, which states that by May 1st, so we're really early, the administration determines the number of school choice spots in each school, and then by June 1st, it's the deadline for the district to determine if it's going to withdraw from school choice program for FY 20. If we don't take a vote, then we automatically default into a school choice program. So we started a couple of years ago. I think this might be our second or third year doing it early in the school year because we kind of know, now that we know more about where things lie and the administration has more information. So this is different than a regular school committee meeting, which we will get to, in that residents do have a choice and a chance to speak to us and to have a dialogue. So I guess the first thing I would say is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the school district opening school choice for FY20, which would begin next September?
Yes.
So can you tell us your name and?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. My name's Hillary Bowie. I'm a resident of Clinton, Massachusetts. This is my son, Mason. He's currently never been to a school committee meeting before, so this is a whole new experience. He's currently a 6th grader at Hale Middle School through school choice. Been there since kindergarten. We've loved the district for years and years. And I also have a 3rd grader who's still in Clinton as a student in the Clinton Elementary School. Prior to her entrance into kindergarten, that's right around the time that school choice was discontinued here in the Nashoba district. You probably recognize me. I've been here probably 3 times before, having the same conversation over and over, just pleading my case for hopefully opening up school choice again for seats that are available, you know, in a classroom. Not saying hundreds and hundreds of students, but if there is a seat available, then, you know, financially speaking, diversity speaking, and in terms of ease on a family, if you would consider opening school choice again. So I've done a little bit of research, you know, in terms of the finances and whatnot, and I think you've all received a letter from me that I wrote prior to this, and the numbers are definitely an issue. I mean, if a region is going to take a financial hit, then it's off the charts. I mean, there's no question about it. I know an issue in terms of the Nashoba Regional District as well as the numbers in the classrooms. You know, why do you want to bring in other kids when the numbers are rising? So I went to the Department of Education, the website, and I just was kind of poking around a little bit to see what I could find. And for the past 3 years, the numbers are down 62 students across the district. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You know, I know that there's a lot of charter schools that have opened, so no question there, kids are leaving the districts on occasion to go to the charter schools, and for any other reason whatsoever. So one number that I found was for the receiving tuition currently for Nashoba Regional District for 87.3 children. I'm not sure where the .3 comes in, but it's there. The receiving tuition currently is $468,313 coming into the district currently with the amount of school choice students. On the other side of things, there's also students that are leaving the district, and there are currently 58.2 students that are leaving the district for a $445,639. So the difference in that, I believe, is $22,000 and change, $22,674. The school choice is bringing in to pad the students that are leaving the district. With the school choice being shut, each year, that number is obviously going to decline if we haven't opened up school choice again, right? Because kids are graduating. If people decide not to participate in the school choice anymore, that's $22,000, excuse me, that will probably slowly dissipate until eventually we're in the minus. in the district, all right? I mean, I was just crunching some numbers and looking. I have charts and numbers that I can hand out for everybody. So that's one thing. So then, you know, I do realize also that coming into the district per student is $5,000 per year. So then you gotta go and look and see how much it costs to educate one student per year. So, doing my due diligence, I figured I better do that, 'cause that's gonna come back at me. So I did. So the number that they come up with per student in the district is $15,612 per year. I looked a little deeper and broke down that number just to see what are these charges? Where are they coming from? How can it be offset? And so, you know, number one on the list is the cost for administration. So is a school choice kid coming in costing more for administration? Probably not, but I mean, you have to throw it out there and you have to look at it. The next thing would be the instructional leadership, it says. Is that eating up a lot? I'm not sure, okay? The next one would be the teacher salaries. Again, we're not asking to hire more teachers, but if spots are available in a classroom, can we fill up that seat without hiring additional teachers? Other teaching services was a category, not really sure what other teaching services entails. Professional development, you know, the teachers are, the cost for professional development is probably absorbed throughout the district with all the children that are there in the town as well. And then ops and maintenance and grounds for the schools. Materials, definitely, absolutely. The school choice kids have to pay for the materials, I get that. Guidance counseling was $507 a year. And pupil services was a $1,500 charge, so absolutely, it costs that, you know, for a school choice student. However, in that pupil services, you know, transportation is included. I'm responsible for driving my kid to and from school. I don't absorb any of the transportation costs. So the $15,000, yes, is an average number probably per student, but some of those costs are probably also absorbed throughout the district that are already electricity, you know, they're not costing any more electricity to be in a room that's already being taught in. So it's you know, roughly speaking through the math and whatnot, an easy number, give or take, of course, because I'm not sure exactly what all the things are. It's about a $2,500 to $3,000 cost, probably a little bit more, but it is generating a bit of focused revenue for a child coming into the district. If we did something, we could maybe allocate that revenue into one specific area, whether it be technology, or if a specific school needs to be helped out a little bit, structurally, you know, it might produce more of an effective feel. Like, oh, you know, here's $250,000, let's allocate that towards computers for the sophomore class. You know, like if we allocate it in that sense, we may be able to feel more of the impact from the school choice. Thank you, that's all I have.
So, I'm gonna ask if there are, and we'll respond.
Yes.
And then later on tonight, please stay, because that's when the discussion will happen. The
Sure.
administration will make the recommendation, we'll do our thing and decide what we're gonna do. But you have come here, you've been respectful every time you've come. I completely understand the position that you're in. And I respect the fact that you did your homework. I think you should get on one of our school councils because you did your homework well enough. I have some disagreement with some of the analysis, but that's just because we've been doing this so long. But I don't disagree with the position that you're in. So I will open up to the floor in a minute to the rest of the school committee. But I want to know, is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor or oppose school choice?
I'll speak in favor as a neighbor and friend of Hillary and also a fellow school choice parent. My son Nikhil, you know Nick.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Sorry. I thought you looked familiar.
Yeah.
Nice hair. Keep going.
Thank you. They play football together, right, with your son. So Nick is a sophomore at Nashoba, the high school. He started in kindergarten in Stowe. So we got him in early on, you know, from the get-go, and I can only say positive things of the experience that we've had. He's absolutely thrived. He's embraced by the students, so you know, I like to think it's a win-win. and with Hillary and Mason too. Mason is a star over at Hale in 6th grade, and Hillary has always been a very, very active parent in the school committee, school environment, community, I should say. And like I said, it's just been extremely positive. I'd love nothing more than for Peyton to benefit as well, the way Mason has, and my son. And yeah, I think, you know, from a financial standpoint, not just financially, but just, you know, the education and everything, the quality, I don't know, it's just a big benefit. You know, I see positive because I've had a very good experience, and I think anyone that I've spoken to has, you know, shares those views. Hillary's run the numbers, I've helped her with that, so I know she can speak to all that, but I don't know, I can only talk from my experience, just personally. It's been absolutely great, all around. I have family in Stowe, and for Nick, it's been wonderful, so, I don't know.
Just having
It's like a mom.
the
sort of.
dedication.
Can I have her name for the minutes?
Yeah, can you give us your name?
Oh,
Yeah, you-
Smitha, and the last name is Monroe. I'll spell my first name. It's S-M-I-T-A, and the last name is M-U-N-R-O-E. Thanks.
Welcome.
All right, any other folks have anything to say? So we will get into deliberations. I just think that it's only, I'm gonna speak on behalf of the school committee, and then you guys wanna say something, jump in. But remember, our deliberation will happen later on in the evening. We don't care if our kids sitting in the seats live in Arizona and their school choice into our district, or they live in Bolton on Mechanic Street. We don't care, they're ours. So, you know, I think that it needs to be identified. And the fact that you are such champions of our school is exemplary, and I would love to open the doors for every kid to come in here.
I mean, I think sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that way, but one point Hillary didn't speak to is when we ran the numbers, enrollment is down also, right, Hill? I think it was like 62
In the past 3 years,
62
across the district.
school choice children.
School
That-
No.
Numbers of enrollment for students in the
No,
Nashoba
identified.
district.
Right, yep.
Right,
Right.
so and then this will be something that the superintendent talks about too later on, because as the numbers for school choice are going down, school choice into our district are going down, because we made the conscious decision not to offer it for various reasons.
Exactly.
The numbers of students who are school choicing out are going down too. So we'll talk about, we'll let her do the numbers and
Okay.
speak to that, because I respect her numbers more than my own. Does anybody else at the school committee table have anything?
Maybe better during deliberations? or-
You could, but you can certainly, I mean, it's a hearing, so it's not like you can't respond.
Well,
I just want to say a quick comment to Hillary. I would also echo what Chairman Ramasco said. Anytime, because you've sent letters to me now too on a couple occasions, I've always found you to be so respectful, so appropriate, and so positive. And so I want to commend you on that. And I
Oh,
think you did
thank you.
great work tonight. And I just really appreciate the approach that you've taken through all of this. So hats off to you.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
Good.
Okay, so again, I think school choice is a wonderful thing to be able to offer people. And my children, when I worked in Acton and lived in Hudson, my kids were able to choice into Acton. There are some new information, new factors that folks may not be aware of unless you live in Lancaster and have been following the news about the development there. That we did the Space Task Force in 2016 commissioned the New England School Development Council to do a population study looking 10 years down the road, and it showed pretty stable population. In April, I became aware of a development that is planned for Lancaster. What the heck is the name of it? Anyway, the Goodrich.
I do, I know.
Yes,
Yeah, I have, it.
estates.
yes.
And the proposal would add 451 bedrooms to this area. Now, this when we did the NESDEC report, people from NESDEC approached the towns to ask about development. In 2013, the town of Lancaster had developed a master plan for housing that was supposed to look 5 years down the road. There is nothing in it about Goodrich Brook Estates. There is something called Fieldcrest Estates, but there are no numbers about it. So that information was not provided. My point is that it appears that we are gonna have an influx that we don't even know. I mean, had we had the information when NESDEC was doing their work, they have the algorithms to crunch the numbers to give us a sense of it, but it is gonna impact us. The impact that will have on our ability to have slots, we don't know. But we will know if we add, say that there are, I don't know, 200 kids in that development, that's gonna have a huge impact on space. We don't know what grades they're gonna be in. So that's a factor that I have looked at in thinking about school choice. Because I don't see how we're gonna get around Goodrich Brook Estates without, we're already looking at our high school building issues. We are not quite at capacity at the elementary middle school in Lancaster, but who knows what this is going to bring in. So that's a big, big question mark. And that's where my concerns lie. Not the concept of school choice itself. I think it's great to give people choices. It's a testament to our school district that we have so many people that want to bring their children here. So I just wanted to add that. I don't know how aware people are of the facts associated with this project, but it was not given, information about this project was not given to NESDEC in 2016.
Okay, all right, and we'll have more discussion from the superintendent's perspective, unless anybody has any burning issue to discuss, and we'll talk about those numbers too a little bit more. Okay, so at this point, if there are no additional comments, we're gonna close the public hearing at 6:17, Alita. And then we'll deliberate later on in the agenda. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you
and
for
sharing
coming.
that information with us. And now we're gonna turn to our regular business meeting. So we'll open the regular business meeting at 6:17. Okay, citizens' comments. Do we have anybody here who would like to speak about any of the items on the agenda outside of, well, you can't see this, but outside of the hearing? No? Yes? No, Mr. Bates was just putting his glasses on. I thought his hand was on. Mr. Bates, would you like to speak? Okay, all right. The next item on the agenda is a school committee chair update. I've got 5. So the first one is that the September 27th, 2017 minutes were released from our executive session of that same date at our last meeting. Those meeting minutes are available. Should anybody want them, they need to contact the district office in order to get that. Subcommittee folks, make sure your minutes are up to date. Let's go into budget season with everything on point. The MASC, MASS, so Mass Association of School Committees, Mass Association of School Superintendents, annual conference, which is a joint conference, and a huge amount of learning, and exhaustive but really rewarding, is November 7th through the 10th, and several of us will be there, which means that our school committee meeting, our next school committee meeting will be November 14th. Because of Veterans Day and the Thanksgiving holiday, we unfortunately only have one meeting in November. So November 14th is our next meeting. And then Dorothy Presser from the Mass Association of School Committees will be coming. She comes every year. We ask her to come to do a training on roles and responsibilities for not just new school committee members, for all of us, because there's so much to learn. And that looks like, based on everyone's availability, it will happen on November 28th. I don't know the exact time yet. We'll have to let you know, because we need to touch base with Dorothy on that.
Is that a regular meeting?
No.
It's
Nope.
an additional meeting.
It will be a separate,
Okay.
yeah, because you know, I talked to her about combining it into a regular meeting, and it was like, well, I guess I could cut it back by to 90 minutes, and I'm like, forget it, just, we need the time. We need people to feel like they can ask questions, and I know you guys have questions. Okay, so those are all my updates, and then, Mr. Delisle, please share with us what's happening.
All right, so sports, the football team unfortunately got shut out by Wachusett last Friday to 35-0 in their first loss, but they look to redeem themselves this Friday's home game against Shrewsbury. The girls soccer team beat Marlborough 2-0 in their senior night and also won last night against Shrewsbury 5-0. There was a lightning delay, but both teams passed the time inside where they held a friendly dance battle against each other. The field hockey team beat Leominster 5-0 in their senior night, and they also recently won their league championship. The volleyball team and the boys soccer team held their senior nights last night. Unfortunately, the boys lost to Shrewsbury 3-0. The golf team competed at Shining Rock Golf Course yesterday in the Central Mass District Golf Championship. Luther Burbank Hale and Florence Sawyer all had cross-country meets earlier this afternoon. For art, Nashoba's Jazz and Concert Band has a concert tonight at 7 o'clock in the high school auditorium, and the choir's concert is coming up on November 2nd. There will be a symphonic band concert on Sunday the 28th. The first Nashoba Coffee House is coming up on November 10th as well. The middle school band students were able to join the high school pep band 2 weeks ago in the football team's last home game. The music program will also be holding a mattress sale fundraiser soon where the students can raise money to help pay for their Disney trip later this year. For events, the Best Buddies Friendship Walk was a very big success this past Saturday. There was a huge turnout, and although tents and bouncy houses were both being flipped over by the wind, there was no negativity in sight. Nashoba will also be returning the traditional pep rally before Thanksgiving, and they will be bringing back the lip dub, which many students love to participate in.
So they're bringing back the what?
The lip dub.
Oh, the lip dub, yeah, we just make sure there's no Native American representation there, please. Thanks, bring that one back. Okay, any questions for Colin? No?
Colin, thank you for squeezing this into your
Oh, yeah,
evening
of
tonight, because I
course.
know you're leaving here quickly to run over now to perform
Yeah.
at 7 o'clock at the concert, so thank you so much for
Yeah,
putting
of
all
course.
this into your work.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'm gonna turn it over to Superintendent Clenchey for her superintendent's report.
I know that we've got a picture coming up, so Friday afternoon, the first thing I'm talking about is hail, for those of you who may not know. Late Friday afternoon, Whitewater was in and just doing some regular testing, and they realized that the water pump was not filled appropriately, and it turned out within hours that it was discovered that it wasn't functioning. So that panic hits, and so this is, if you were in Stowe, this is what you were watching. It's huge, and I just want to give a shout out to Rob Frieswick, our Director of Facilities, and Todd Sauer, who oversees all caused by a little hole there, who oversees our grounds crew, who spent all Friday night cutting down trees and brush and everything else to try to get their way. If you can put it back to the first picture again, Alita, thanks. Excuse me, to be able to get back, because they had to bring the crane, they had to drop this thing in. It was a mammoth undertaking. So, and then they were able to run the water all the way throughout the course of the weekend, because on Friday, I wasn't so sure we would be able to have school on Monday or Tuesday, I didn't know. And then I got the phone call Friday night, no, we found the part, we're gonna be good to do this. And so I, of course, immediately stayed in contact with Bill Wrigley, our town administrator over there, and so he knew every step of the way what we were doing as well. So so on Sunday afternoon, we got the go-ahead that it was okay, that the water was all flushed, and they tested it all. Whitewater was on site Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and the water was tested, and we were able to resume regular activities. So thanks to everybody involved. That was a huge undertaking, and not something at all that we were anticipating. It was kind of one of those moments when Pat called me and said, "You won't believe this." So thanks to everybody. Pat, thanks to you too for your heavy involvement throughout the entire process. We appreciate that. So we're going to talk about a PD update. I'm going to turn this over to our Assistant Superintendent McGuire. He's going to talk quickly about empowering all learners. I just want to tee this up just quickly. You'll recall, this is for the school committee members, you'll recall that we did the book study this summer, the George Curls book study, and I'd mentioned that this was going to be finding its way through all of our PD all year round, and that is truly the case. So we've kind of kickstarted that, and Todd's going to speak to that. And then he's also going to talk to you this evening about the Chromebook evening that we had recently, which was great. And we want to thank everybody, all the parents who came out to that. And that actually was, in part, I mean, we had wanted to do it, but we also had parents reach out to us and ask us if we could do this. So I felt that the Chromebook evening was a win-win for everybody. So do you want to speak about the PD update, Chromebook,
Sure.
and then I'll come back and talk power outage?
Sure, good evening. Thank you. So Friday afternoon, last Friday afternoon, October 19th, kind of kicked off our professional development series that really is tied to that theme about empowering all learners and engaging all learners. So across the district on Friday afternoon, we kind of kicked that off with that year's theme, and it really is tied to that culminating piece in March when George Curls is going to come and visit the district and speak about his book and about empowering all learners, including the community, students, faculty. So our community of teachers was really engaged all afternoon in a lot of cooperative professional environments, from our early literacy program at the elementary schools. We had a variety of workshops focused on addressing student learning needs and really giving teachers autonomy to address the learning needs in their own classrooms and in their own departments and at their own schools, as well as collaborative book studies such as the one you saw this summer. They are also utilizing new strategies to address needs of all learners. And really new technologies such as the Chromebooks that have been rolled out to all teachers and students, digital notebooks, and online communication tools were highlighted in Friday's start. We tried to make it as interactive as possible as well. Our teaching and learning department really created an online digital notebook for teachers, which was really in real time. Every teacher was equipped with their own digital notebook that walked them through the day and allowed them to ask questions that would come directly to us, to our phones, to our Chromebooks that we could address as leaders and administrators throughout the day, and visit with a lot of groups. So we had a lot of facilitators. Laura Friend, one of the principals, facilitated a group as well, and the feedback coming in from that was very positive. So successful day there. Last Thursday evening on the 18th, we held a one-to-one Chromebook evening, informational evening for parents, and that's just what the evening was. Really information, kind of kicking off our digital literacy program and providing parents kind of the opportunity in the open forum to ask questions and for us to kind of address any concerns that they had regarding Chromebooks and the rollout of the one-to-one initiative. We had just over 50 people show up to the cafeteria over at the Sawyer School, and really we talked about the rollout of devices in both the middle and high schools. There were a lot of representation though from both elementary and middle and high school, so even elementary parents were coming and asking great questions. And really the evening offered an overview of our acceptable use policy. There were a lot of questions around safety, there were questions around social media, there were questions around curricular resources. And so that presentation that we had for that evening has been posted on the district website for people to check out if they want to. There's a lot of resources in there around safety and resources for parents. So it was a successful evening. We engaged in a feedback session where parents were able to write down questions that they had and feedback that they had. And all the questions were great and got us thinking about next steps. So as the teaching and learning department comes together in terms of looking at next steps, we're taking a look at, what's the next session we kind of want to offer. And so topics such as internet safety, as well as curriculum, the Google Suite, have come up, and it seemed to be well received by the community.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have three other quick things here. The next is a power outage. So we had a power outage at the high school earlier, and in the week, was it just this Monday? I'm just thinking, or the last Monday, right? Yeah, thank you. And again, that's one of those things, and thank you, by the way, for, you called at the same point in time, the director of facilities called, like, my phone was blowing up at like 10 after 6. I was like, oh my goodness. So thanks to everybody who did that, I appreciate it. But it was interesting, I got a couple of emails after, and I thought, I responded to the emails, but I thought just some points to put out there right now so that folks understand. One of the things that came up is, how do you run a school when you don't have a septic system? And actually, that's not true. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. So if people ask you, that you've got the right information. The septic system at the high school is actually run by a completely different system, separate from the high school. It's not even housed in the high school. It's housed in a separate building, its own plant. And that plant is run by a generator. That generator kicks in the second the power goes out. So we will always have water in that building. We will always have the sewer system. So there were all these stories and rumors that were floating around, and it's like, you know what, we'll just deal with this after.
They really took on a life of their own.
They really did take on a life, and where would we be without Facebook? To tell us all the stories. And it's like, and you can't even begin to jump in and say, that's not true, no, that's not true, no, that's not true. So just to let you know that in terms of that kind of thing, and to be honest with you, we were, of course I can say this now, we were within 10 minutes of shutting it down, of doing an early release. And I had said to Principal DiDomenico, by quarter of the hour, if that power's not on, our buses were all we were totally lined up to shut down for early release. And within that 10-minute time, the lights came on, the power came on. Pat had to call back to the buses and cancel the buses and everything. We were completely ready. So I mean, if it's going to go on too long, there comes a point where you say, this doesn't make any sense. However, power came back on, everything went fine, continued on. One of the other emails that I got in that I just want to speak to is somebody said, well, how could you ever possibly do Alice without power? So I just want to speak quickly to that. When we train staff on Alice, one of the key things is that you need to be able to make decisions when nobody can man PA system. So quite frankly, it was like the perfect scenario in terms of that kind of thing, and so what the teachers are trained is for what to listen for, how to listen to things, and there are certain things that you should be listening for or keeping an ear open to and that kind of thing. So the truth is, whether you have power or not does not affect the Alice component. So I just want to put that out there so that there's an understanding of that as well. So those were two things that came to my attention a couple of times in different emails. So I just wanted to put that out there. Oh, sorry, Lynn?
Just a quick question. Maintenance-wise, so we've got generators at every school, right?
We do not, that's a Rob question. We don't have generator here in this building.
Okay, well, another school in Center.
That run certain components. They don't run the whole thing. Same with the high school. They don't run everything.
Okay, but is there, because I'm getting the impression there was concern that it might not kick on. And so my question is there a maintenance plan for that? Because usually when you have an emergency generator, they're supposed to be run periodically, like on a schedule.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if we have something in place like that.
Well, really what you're asking, I think, is are they tested on a regular basis? And I would say Pat's already shaking her head saying yes, they are. Yeah. I didn't have any questions about whether the generator would kick in. I certainly hope I didn't leave that message, because that's not at all. We just the opposite. We knew our generators would kick in, and they did. This building here, though, does not have a generator, this part of the Emerson. So, the next thing that I've got listed, and normally I don't respond to communication because we get so much communication into our offices on a daily basis. You can just imagine, I know I've said before, when we take a look at our emails, 10,000 in an email box. I mean, for somebody like Joan or I, that's the kind of stuff that we get. So you don't generally respond. However, I do want to respond to this one email that came in, and only because I thought the timing was really good, because they brought up the topic of vaping, and they brought up high school and the high school concerns. So I want to address those two just because it's just a perfect opportunity to do that. And I got the sense in reading through that perhaps they hadn't been following school committee meetings, which is that's fine. I mean, I don't expect that we have an enormous audience out there. You like to think that there might be a couple folks out there watching, but I know that not 3,500 of our parents, for example, or 7,000 are watching. So I understand that. So I just want to speak to the vaping quickly because we started work on vaping last year, as you'll recall, and I know school committee members, you'll already remember this, but we did some initial staff training, and we thought it was so critical that we brought it, you'll recall, we brought it to the school committee table. And if you go back, if those parents go back and take a look, they can actually go back, and I'm sure that that's easily viewed online that particular evening when we did it. And we continued on with PD in that area. In fact, the high school had its own individual training earlier before schools, just right at the time that school started, just before school started this year, for staff. And then I know that I've said around this table, I think at 2 separate meetings now, that we, at one of our safety meetings, that particular community came forward and said, could you please do something on vaping? And I mentioned that at the last meeting that we weren't quite sure what the dates would be for that, but I'd like to let you know tonight that we're set on that. Those dates are, and I'm gonna pass this around. So, you know, the notion that the parents want to learn more about vaping. We also have a follow-up to this particular presentation. Presentation that's coming up, we're gonna follow the same approach, and I've said this before, but I wanna say it again, the same approach that we took with the parent safety meetings. So we're having one in each community, and then again, the same rules apply. If you can't attend your own, where your home is, please feel free to go to one of the other communities. We want our parents to be really clear on this. So this particular session is happening, but then we have a follow-up that's going to happen in March. And we'll put that date out. We're just finalizing that particular session as well. And that will focus on 2 other components. So this particular session that's coming up is going to focus on marketing, because I know that that's something that if you haven't thought about it, you really need to have your antenna up as parents on how this stuff is being marketed and purchased and all that other kind of stuff. Then the other piece, of course, is the obvious. Let's talk about the health risks, right? So this upcoming meeting, those are going to be the 2 components that are going to be focused on. In March, there will be 2 completely different components that we will be addressing. So the March meeting will probably be a single meeting as opposed to the 3 individual meetings here. But I'm going to circulate this and so that you've got it. This should, if it hasn't hit your email boxes, parents, today, it's on its way to you. So that's that. There's also, and just so that you know too, we prepared a press release as well to go out. So I don't know whether you got it?
My boss might have, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so we'll circulate this, and I'm hoping that one of these can land in your seat there. So the other piece that we're looking for tonight, of course, is that we were hoping to, I know that Susan's not here, so I'm hoping that we're still gonna be able to push forward with the policy change that we need with that particular vaping policy, because right now, the word vaping is not, or the e-cigarettes is not in there, so I'm hoping that the policy subcommittee will be able to push forward with that, so that, because of course, that gives the administration the foundation that we need. Right now, we're still dealing with it as a progressive discipline, but it would be very, very helpful to have that particular policy separated out, and so I'm hoping you'll do that tonight. So that's the next piece that I wanted to present. Whoops, I think, yeah, oh, there they are. I was just looking for my thank you. So just in case I forgot and didn't have my notes, but I do. The other piece is so when we get emails with regards to concerns that parents might have or teachers have or whatever, we direct them a certain way depending on where we feel their best communication is going to land and have some support coming back. One of the things that was also mentioned in this particular email was communication regarding staff concerns at the high school. And I just want to note, at any time you have change, and especially site-based change, so that means like a principal or assistant principals, or the change of administration on site, there's always like an awkward time or a time period where you see an implementation dip or a change that just becomes uncomfortable. And so as those of us who are seasoned in this, we know to expect that. So we know that we kind of have to ride that piece out. But what we also know is the positive thing is that staff have venues that they can go to. They have, of course, they can go to their administration if they've got concerns. They can come to this level of administration if it's special education. They can go to somebody like Joan's office. If it's human resources, they naturally go to Anne Marie. If there's something they've got concerns about budget, they automatically go to Pat. If all of that isn't found, then of course they also have their union that they can go to. If they're not comfortable going there, but they'd rather go to peers or departments, they can do that. So they have multiple avenues where they can go to source out help or support if they need it. So I just want to make sure that we encourage our staff to use all of those venues that are available to them. So I just want to put that on the table as well. This is not listed on here, but it's just really a quick moment here. I want to send out a special thank you to the 3 historical societies, Bolton, Lancaster, and Stowe Historical Societies. We have a vision, as Alita knows, we have a vision of Todd, stop the giggling. We have a vision of putting some of our very special pictures in this hallway. And I'm so excited because we reached out to our historical societies and said, can you please send us pictures? And then it kind of grew, and we said, you know what, let's not just put historical pictures here, let's put some in the high school as well. So we have been planning and plotting of what this will, I don't think you'll see it next school committee meeting, but this is to give you a heads up, in about 2 school committee meetings from now, you should see those historical pictures, and I'm so excited. And they're gonna go, so they were asking if we might have a grand reopening, that they can come and see this.
You want to
So-
open school again?
No, just for our historical society friends, we'll ask them to come in and take a look, but we're really excited about the pictures, and we just thank them so much. They were fantastic to work with, and I know that Alita, you had a lot of communication, and you're helping to move this little project along, so thanks very much. So that was a long-winded superintendent's report, so I apologize for that.
That was really good stuff. Anybody have any questions for Superintendent Glenchie? No? We have a school student presentation, yay! I almost called you Dr. Bates.
Dr. Bates.
Dr. Bates.
I'm qualified for that.
So Principal Bates will ask you to come forward and talk now. I'm so excited about this. I've seen the presentation, of course, the slide deck that you've got, but can you talk to us about the Random
So very
Acts of
briefly,
Kindness Club?
first of all, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to highlight the great work that's going on at our school. I begin every day with a request to our students in our morning announcements to work hard and to be kind. And Jane Richards and Caitlin Angulo and Liz Combs have sort of taken up that mantle and put that emphasis in the hands of where it should be, with the students. And so they're going to tell you a little bit about our Random Acts of Kindness Club.
Great. Looking forward to that.
Come on up and tell us who you are and tell us what grade you're in, and yay, we're happy you're here. We should probably all move.
I'll give that to you.
Tell us who you are so we know.
So we are the middle school student leaders for the Random Acts of Kindness Club. I'm Kat Green, I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Lila Cotter, I'm in 7th grade. I'm Lily Rossadini, I'm also in 7th grade. And I'm Charlotte Romeo, and I'm
So this is the history of the Random Acts of Kindness Club. So it all started when the students from the Middle School Student Council, along with a selection of other student leaders, attended the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center, also known as MARC, training for student leaders. That was in October of 2017. This was at Bridgewater State University. The students that went on the trip, we were some of them, suggested that we start a kindness club at our school. The Random Acts of Kindness Club started in January 2018 and was open to any interested students starting in grades 5 through 8. There were 16 of us. The RAK Club is led by our middle school student leaders, and we are building the consensus when choosing activities and working to encourage kindness to all students throughout the whole year. This year, the RAK Club is a little bit bigger. We opened it to students in grades 3 through 8 who are interested. We have over 50 students.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
So last year, some of the projects that we worked on was the kindness mural. So that's a picture of it. It's right when you walk in. And then we also worked on the kindness rock garden, which is right outside Floyd Sawyer, and that's a picture of it. And then we also did in April, we had a kindness week, which included doing like sit with new people at lunch, blackout bullying, and wear pink shirts to support someone who got bullied.
So this year, we are planning to do more things, including another kindness rock garden and another mural, but this time in this Emerson wing. And we're also, for the K through 3rd grade, we're gonna do tokens, which are like little necklaces that represent kindness and helpfulness, and you get to wear them and pass them along to different students. And we're doing another kindness week in April, which should include more activities than last year.
Does anyone have any questions?
So professional. Anybody have any questions? So I have a question. Oh, Kathy has a question. Let Kathy go first.
I don't have a question. I just want to commend you for the work you're doing and raising awareness about kindness. It sounds silly as I'm saying it, but I know there are a lot of adults that are very depressed because of what they see going on in the world, and it's just, my feeling is that it's the young folks that are gonna fix this mess that we've made. And I think kindness is a good place to start, because you can have differing points of view. I used to work with a principal who said you can disagree without being disagreeable, and kindness is foundational to everything. And just maybe it's a coincidence, today's National Unity Day, and so I find this presentation timely. And thank you for the work you're doing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So last year, we did a bulletin board where we had students write on this, and it says a kind note on here, and we had them write something nice that they had done or they had seen. So that was that, and then these were our stickers from last year's Kindness Week that we gave to students.
And this is an example of a token, which the little kids can wear on their neck. And the younger kids in the Kindness Club are made all of these.
Thank you. Who designed it? Who designed this?
The kids did.
Nice job. Miss, Superintendent Clenchey, Miss Clenchey.
I just want to say thank you. I just want to say, every time I go into Florence Sawyer and I see that rock garden, it just makes me smile. It just makes me smile every single time. It never gets old. So hats off to all of you for doing that. I really appreciate it. I also want to mention something that our member Kathy Codian just said too. I would also agree. I think that at a time that we need kindness, I think you're really role modeling so well for those students around you. I am thrilled to hear that you've opened the club, opened those borders. So thank you so much for doing that. Hats off to all of you. And I'm really looking forward to the next rock garden. That's going to be like really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you both for bringing these wonderful students in. Oh, we need more. I think you should do this for adults too, guys. Principal Bates, could you get a parent, adult kindness day too? We would all benefit
I
from
think
it.
it's a fabulous idea. In fact, I don't want to speak for the club, but I think that we could probably make sure that our school committee has rocks available too, so that they can, add rocks to the
What a
garden.
cool idea. That's a cool
Awesome.
idea.
Thank
Yeah.
you. We would love it.
Thank you for your efforts. Thank you.
Keep going, guys. Keep going. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Somehow budget timeline just,
I don't really want to talk about
I don't even want to go there now, do you?
But I know we have folks in the audience who would like like to hear about the budget timeline, so Pat, come on up.
Not as fun as that, though.
Just want it noted that we are on schedule.
Are we ahead too?
Yeah. Don't tell everybody that, because then they'll talk more. I guess.
Okay, so Pat, we'll turn it over to you to just kind of go through and lay out the timeline and how the bottom boxes kind of tie in with the top boxes.
Right, so basically, we've already started this timeline, even though I haven't brought it before you. We've already sent out requests to, submitted forms to all of the schools for the staffing requests. And basically, what we're trying to do is get everything in pieces so that we're not overwhelming all of the principals all at once. November 16th, we're looking to bring in all of our non-salary budgets. At this point in time, Michelle will be compiling the actual meat and potatoes of the budget. And we'll be getting all of our food services, extended day, athletics, and capital. Around the 14th of December, we should be getting the rest of the budget from the other departments. And at that point, we'll be hopefully having a draft to all of the towns for the capital. And hopefully I can bring something forward to you in advance, because their timelines are a little bit more staggered. You know, every town has a different date that they want this information, so I'll bring that to you sometime in December, early December. And January, we're looking at the insurance information for health insurance. We probably won't see that information till the very end of January. So as far as, I'll try to tie that into the last meeting of January if I can. Otherwise, it will have to probably come out to the first one in February. Depends on how quickly I get those rates. Right now, we're compiling an RFP from all of the major carriers in this area, and we've had our first meeting with the Insurance Advisory Committee, and we're trying to compile.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So the other dates that are important to us, the public hearing date is the 27th of February. That is, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped something. The 26th of January will be our budget workshop, and that's on a Saturday, and at that point you'll be able to see more detail of the budget and ask any questions that you have for all of the principals and anybody at the workshop. Then the public hearing, and then the final vote will be on the 13th of March per our regional agreement, which states that we must vote by March 15th. So does anybody have any questions about any of the timelines? I mean, there's a lot of detail. I don't want to read every single item on this, or I'll be here for 10 minutes, so. And I think the only thing I would point out is the lower boxes all tie in
Right.
with the upper boxes, and so that really ties in with the planning calendar.
Yes.
That's what we did, is we took the planning calendar and we went back and we just, so that it all ties together.
Good. So, and you know what, you mentioned when you first came up, you know, you'd already started, you hadn't had a chance to present this. That's because we asked you to push it off to this meeting.
Right.
So,
But I still move forward with that because it's important to
Yeah.
have all of these pieces so that we don't overwhelm.
I think this looks so good to me. It's like it's predictable. We're finally into a groove.
Yeah.
It feels
It does feel like that.
people can expect what we're
Right.
gonna do. We know what we're gonna do. So this is really well laid out. Thank you. Any questions for Pat on this? Kath?
That one for Pat and for Brooke. So this is our plan. How is the work that we do coordinated with the towns?
Oh, the towns.
Well, that just so that we're clear, that's kind of what Pat was just saying right
Right.
now, that it's kind of all over the board a little bit, so we're gonna have to be flexible with our towns. I do know, at Lancaster, and talking to your town administrator, that they would prefer So they're a little bit different than Bolton and Stowe. They would prefer that we come in at the tail end, as opposed to the working through. As opposed to, for example, I know that I always go to Stowe, and they really appreciate seeing the lead up to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So in Bolton, quite frankly, we do the same kind of thing that we do with Stowe. I think that they are also appreciative of the lead up. So I think it's just the different communities and how they want us to approach it. But I do know that, Orlando and I've had this discussion, and as opposed to last year going early, I think that they feel that they would prefer not to
Right,
have
and
that.
I have spoken with him recently about some of the things that he's looking for at this point.
Okay.
So, and I will bring them to your attention before we bring them forward. So that's that, if anybody else has any questions.
No, I think it looks great.
No, yeah.
So
All right,
next.
and your September treasurer's report is next, Pat. Oh, wait, do you want to do the FY19 budget? Results of operations?
Yes, I'll do that first.
That's not on the agenda. though.
It is, yeah, it's not,
Well, it's listed as the materials.
Material.
Where?
It's in the material.
it's in the material package, but somehow it didn't get onto the agenda. That's interesting.
Not on the agenda, but
I
it's in
think
the
it was
material
on there.
packet.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
sure.
gotta be on the
Yeah.
agenda. We're gonna have to
Just
push it to the next one.
We'll push it to the next one
Okay,
then.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
There are no, just so you know, there are no surprises anyway.
Okay.
It's just basically the
Close
same
your
kind of thing
eyes
as
to
last
get
time.
started.
Yeah.
This is the September's treasurer's report. Basically, we've got some more money, it's getting towards the next quarter. We'll be seeing another influx of money coming in from the town, so you can see we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, any questions? No? All right. Pat, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat.
How does this cycle feel so far?
Good.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, it's fluid.
Good, yeah, well, I'm sure it is, right? All right, I am going to turn over our first new business agenda item on school choice discussion to Superintendent Clenchey to provide us with a recommendation. I think she's probably gonna have more than a recommendation, some background information. And that's when we're going, and I'm gonna ask each of you to provide input, okay?
Thank you. So, I don't need that one slide up just yet, but I know that we've got a slide here we're gonna present in a minute. And it really kind of piggybacks onto some of the work the research that Hillary did, that she alluded to earlier. So I'm gonna put out a couple of statements, and then kind of like Kathy did in terms of saying, this is my viewpoint, this is the viewpoint of our administrative team, and then there are also the realities that we're having to deal with, right? And for the school committee, the challenge is how do you tie all of that together? So I would start by saying this is a complicated issue for the school district, right? It's a complicated issue for our school committee. For our administrators, we've had a number of discussions, and now not that you would know this because you wouldn't, because this is just part of our regular course of business, but we've had it on for a couple of different administrative meetings where we've pulled ourselves out, and that has solely been our topic. And so, to the point where we've looked at and said, okay, is there a classroom that we could still put somebody in? Is there some, we've drilled really deep on this, so I would want you to know that that's how deep we've gone. So I also want to start with the global philosophical. So I would put on the table, just as Kathy did earlier, I support school choice. So I want to put that on the table first. Our administrative team philosophically supports school choice, but there are caveats. And those are the pieces that I'm gonna talk about tonight, right? So.
Caveats? Caveats. You are so Canadian.
I didn't know what, isn't that tomatoes, tomatoes?
I figured it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just keep me on the straight
I
and narrow
just
here.
took you off your mojo, but go
Or should I
ahead.
say about to? So with that, then there are other qualifiers that I'm going to speak to tonight too. So first of all, one of the things that we look at when we're talking about this whole issue is, so who are the students that are out there that want to come in? So first of all, as you said so eloquently tonight and you articulated so clearly, we've already got a number of students out there who are in here whose families would love to have the siblings in here as well. So we know that, we recognize that. You're not the only parent I hear from over the course of the year that would like their children to come into the district. So that's one piece. We know that staff and some of our administration also would really like to have their children come in. And I always think that that's always such a compliment when you work here and you want your children to come here too, you know, so we know that. And I know that we've talked about the fact that we've been walking through the hallways and sometimes people will stop us and say, you know, is there any chance that this might be a topic for discussion and stuff? So, well, again, this is a broad picture of people that we know would still have interest in coming into our district. Residency issues. Now, you've heard me around this table, if you follow the school committee, how many times have I spoken about residency and the issues that we have with residency? Because we have students who almost are just dropped off at our door. Sometimes because people don't know better and they think that they can just put their child wherever. And I can't tell you the number of difficult situations we have found ourselves in. Some of those I've brought forward here to this table, but we run into residency issues continuously. So we always have that potential issue. And then we have some very specific programming that we offer in our district. It could be something like SPED, or it could be our band program, or it could be our sports teams, or those programs, never mind just the regular academics, that parents want their children to come into this district for. So those are all things, those are all reasons or rationale that's out there for parents to want their children to come into our district. It's good and it's bad. It's great because this is clearly a highly desirable district for students to attend. You take a look at our MCAS scores, and you know, you and I have had this conversation a number of times. Other districts would love to be in the position that we're in right now. We've got great kids doing great things with great staff, great administrators, great leadership. It is a district functioning on so many cylinders. So as an administration, we support school choice if it was to be implemented in a careful, thoughtful, strategic manner. When we talked about it as an administrative team, we did look and say, okay, so for example, we can see that we've got a couple of places at Luther Burbank, for example, where we could put a couple of additional children. But Stowe is closed because it's pretty much at max, and we don't have the room to add an extra class. When we take a look at Lancaster increased its children this year, this wouldn't be on this website right now, by 30 kids this summer, just this summer. That's without all the moves, but that's without this. So these are things that we need to take a look at. So we've got these couple of little places that are really random. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just like, okay, we've got a smaller class of grade 7s, for example, right now at Luther Burbank. But that's kind of it, unless you start looking at the high school. And if you're going to look at the high school, then you need to also think about things like curriculum. All of our curriculum is sequential. It's scaffolded in a way across the district that if a student at that grade 9 level coming in has not had rich curriculum along the way, it creates other issues for them when they try to come into that grade 9 level at the high school. And so their potential for issues with that, we just need to think about, and we just need to be aware. I think that the high school would say, we could probably fit some extra kids in here because, you know, in part, we've lost, exactly as you said, some of the school choice numbers. Now, Alita, just if you can put that chart up quickly right now. Not that I want to focus on the chart because I don't, but just to kind of show you quickly, this is taken right out of our data bank. So this gives you an idea of school choice in and out, exactly as you were alluding to earlier. You also brought up charter schools. I'm going to speak to that as a little bit separately, but quite frankly, the charter schools has been a pretty consistent number, although it's tended to go down. It's down now than where it was at a couple of years ago, but it's always been in that 35 to 40 range, in that ballpark. But you will definitely see that, you know, the blue numbers are the school kids out. The school choice numbers are exactly as you had alluded to earlier, those kids that are coming in. And exactly as you said, those numbers are, you can see where we're at right now. These are the numbers that we'll be submitting to the DESE October 1st. So we have whittled, as if you will, those numbers down over the course of time, because a couple of years ago you said we're not going to open these doors right now. So that's where you sit right now as a school district, that natural curvature that you see there. The concern that we have, and probably more from a management lens at this point in time, I know that I most often look at this role as a leadership, but there's a management component to this as well. Ties in with exactly what Kathy Codian was speaking to earlier. So I reached out because we'd had, obviously, I know that you know, I have regular discussions with our town administrators. So we had some of this very discussion the other day around the table, and I said, okay, where are you sitting at in terms of development in your communities? And Stowe, although we always tease and say it's an apple orchard away from another infusion.
No, it's a golf course.
Or golf course. But right now, you don't have a ton of permitted building. You've got some, but you're kind of sitting at a plateau. So you're kind of the only community that's like that, though. When I take a look at Stowe, or at Bolton, it's different than Lancaster because it's already permitted, right? Those are the permits that are here. These houses are going up. It's not sitting where Lancaster is still in that early stages. So you've got, and this is just a broad overview, you have 15 new family single homes going in, 13 new dwelling condos, and there isn't an easy number that they're saying that they're putting on these 15 homes, but there basically are 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes that are going up. So we're looking at large homes that are going up here. In addition to these, there are a number of developments that have not yet begun and are well into the permitting, but just haven't quite finished that last little piece, but are expected to go up within the next year or 2 years. 11 5-bedroom single-family homes, 18 single-family homes in another development, 2 additional single-family homes in another development, 6 additional 2-bedroom new dwelling condos, and then there are 2 other subdivisions that are on hold that have not completely finished their permitted process. As I said to Don Lowe, these are not going to be retirees that are buying these homes, because these are all big homes. So you start just playing with numbers, and I not through any type of algorithm or anything like that. I was just going through and saying, wait a minute, if you've even just got 1 or 2 kids per, we're looking at an influx in Bolton minimum of about 106 kids over the course of the next
That doesn't
little bit.
even include the homes that are turning over from folks that are
Absolutely
retiring and
does
moving
not.
out, and that's, so before
This is
all
just
this,
new development.
before all this happened in Bolton, we were seeing that, right?
And that's my point exactly in Lancaster, so thank you for bringing that up, because again, I want to say it's 34 or 35 students is what the number is in Lancaster from this summer.
From the summer.
From the
Okay,
summer.
Right.
And that's not with any of the building that's going on. So.
Right.
So my concern is that when you're talking about 64 new, I think it's 64 new homes.
64 new homes, 126 apartments.
Yeah.
And so, let me see, there are 27 one-bedroom apartments, 95 two-bedroom apartments, and 14 three-bedroom apartments. And then you have, it was supposed to be 80 single-family homes, and now, the last I saw it was 64,
Yeah.
3 and 4 bedrooms. But in addition to that, what NESDEC, the information that NESDEC had, was new construction that was permitted, 56 new homes, approximately 168 bedrooms. So there were things that they had in there, but this, and I brought it up at the public hearing in April in Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
And the developer made the point of saying you cannot use impact on the schools as a reason not to move forward. This is against the law. And I said, that's not why I'm bringing it up. This is to the town. Because you put 400 bedrooms in, some of those are gonna have kids in them, more than one, and it's gonna impact the school, it's gonna impact the school budget. And there's,
It's gonna impact the towns too.
it's the town too, but I'm there to represent the school. And people weren't aware that the high school has space issues and that there were 2 modular classrooms. So it's a big thing for the town. I don't know how they're gonna resolve it, but it's.
You know, and the other thing too that's happened is, you know, we've had folks reach out to us to say, well, can you help to influence, you know, that, no, we can't, this is not the school district's place
I
to
saw about
do
the
it.
transportation.
Yeah, that's not the school district's place to do that. And, you know, I know that Orlando is being asked questions kind of along the lines that you're talking about, and he has no crystal ball. And I understand that, just as I don't expect Don Lowe or Bill Wrigley to. They don't have the crystal ball, but we know that it's not gonna be a retirement couple that is gonna move into a 5-bedroom home. It just isn't. So, in light of all of this, I'm gonna put out there again, it's not that I do not support school choice. I am concerned right now about the level of impact from both Bolton and Lancaster. I am not concerned right now about Stowe, although you're tight over there.
Give us 5 years.
Yeah. The thing about Stowe, though, in all fairness, though, Hale is packed. Because with what's coming through Stowe right now, in terms of center school, the classes are all fairly large coming through. So for the next, I think the next 4 years, Hale will be pretty much packed for the next 4 years.
So,
Just
Lynn,
to give you an idea, on my street alone, we've had 4 families move in, and they've got all kids under 5.
Mhm.
so I wanna hear from, so your recommendation is,
I recommend that we sit tight right now and not reopen school choice, but it is not a philosophical view that I'm opposed to school choice. I support school choice. I think it has a place, and I think it brings some really good things into a district. The money, is where I would be disagreeing. It doesn't, from my lens, no, understanding the 15,000 and how that breaks down, that's not an argument, because we don't see it, we can't see it as a stream of money, because it just really doesn't work that way. So I'm suggesting that you hold tight for the next year or 2 years even. You know, to be honest with you, you might want to just do this again on a yearly basis, because if some of this falls off next year, you may be in a completely different position. But then you also have to look and say, do you want school choice to be the random pieces? And if that's the case, like I'm saying, you've got a couple seats here, a couple seats there. For example, I think you also have there's a little bit of wiggle room at Florence Sawyer right now. Not a lot. And again, it's like specific classes, you know, we can put an extra one here, you can put an extra one there. And, you know, and I think, in all fairness to the administration, I think because the principals themselves also support school choice, I think they were trying to see if we could make this work. But at the end of all of this, the unknown, I don't want to say it scares us, because we're a school district, we will make it work no matter what happens. And if you come back and you say, you know, Brooke, we hear what you're saying with regards to this, but we're going to decide to do this, I'll have to figure some way out. But I would suggest to you that your unknown is too big right now in 2 of the 3 communities.
so let's hear from the school committee members. Steve?
We're looking at large developments or large permitted things, but what we really don't know is the situation where older people are moving out who don't have kids in the system, and newer people are moving in who will.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the house that we sold this past summer, we moved out, no kids, all the kids have basically grown. But the couple that bought the house has one 18-month-old, and will probably have more over the next couple of years. So that's even more part of the unknown that we have, and that's happening in Stowe. I know people, friends of ours, who are moving out of Stowe or downsizing or something like that, and the houses that they brought their kids up in are going to younger couples, bringing in more kids, and there's just really no way to tell that. That's number one. Number two becomes, I don't wanna touch on the $15,000 versus $5,000 issue because we are all aware of that situation. But let's talk about another situation, and the other situation is when we bring people in that, or we allow school choice and it tips the balance. And we have to look at temporary classrooms, we have to look at adding to all three of the elementary, middle schools, and those buildings are all owned by the towns, and for people who are concerned about town taxes, that goes directly to their bottom line. It's not gonna be shared among, if we have to build a new classrooms at Florence Sawyer, it's not gonna be shared by the other towns. This is their whole bag that they're gonna have to digest and do. One of the nice things is when you build new homes, not only do you get new kids, but you're also gonna get some new tax revenue. So if you're looking at it from one point of view and another point of view, the area we just moved into, the new over 55 community, 66 units at $10,000 to $12,000 worth of taxes a year, not one kid. If we could get all the towns to agree to do something like that, that would be wonderful from our point of view. But it is an issue. And one more thing I would like to bring up that during the discussion earlier I came across. What if we do allow school choice, which from a philosophical viewpoint that I believe everybody should be able to do whatever they want to a certain extent, as long as it's legal. But what if we do have kids in and we take kids and they fill up the slots, and then we get a whole influx of new kids to the town? Do we tell the kids who are here on school choice, no, you can't come back anymore? And we can't do that. Once you're in the system, you're in the system. So we can't do that. So unfortunately, we can't look at today and tomorrow and next year. We have to look 3 to 5 years down the road and see what's coming. If we had a better idea of some of these housing things, and we could put on the table the idea that some of the schools are going to have to be enlarged over the next 3 to 5 years, that becomes another SOI to the school building authority or something.
Okay.
Somehow. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the whole thing is analogous to an airline. Like, that plane is taking off no matter what. The school is running no matter what. So in the airline, you might as well fill the seats because it'll bring in extra revenue. However, if you overbook that flight, you've created a huge amount of problems in other ways. So for me, I kind of see
That's a great analogy.
I kind of see an analogy here of that I have opinions about, that the pain of overbooking is more than the extra benefit you get from filling every last seat. It's a very delicate balance there. I have a question though. You mentioned siblings and you mentioned children of like staff and teachers. What's the legality of actually doing that?
I'm going to jump in because we're not going to talk about the staff. That's a collective bargaining.
Collective bargaining piece. Although that's not why I brought it up. I brought it up because people ask me that all the time.
Okay.
And both staff and admin.
But you can't be selective, that's the.
Right.
Right,
So
that's
if
the
you have
point.
2 slots and 10 people want into it, you have a lottery, and there's no guarantee that a sibling will get in,
Okay.
you can't.
We could prioritize, because some districts do prioritize
Well,
siblings.
we have talked about that, and we've talked about prioritizing amongst the administrative team members as well. But then it depends on the space that you've got available too, so.
Yeah, because if you're talking about 1 here, 2
Yeah.
there, even within a prioritization scheme, there would probably be conflicts, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions.
Surprise!
Yeah, surprise. So my first question, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I just want to confirm. And you kind of mentioned it just now, but are there different iterations of school choice? In other words, are there like a modified school choice where there are 2 members of the same family, one that has been school choiced and the other has not. Are there those kinds of exceptions, or is it all or nothing for school
That's what she
choice?
was just talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it is all or nothing then?
No, there are different ways that you can look at trying to do this, but it is gonna be, it's complex.
We
Like
can't
that's-
say,
You can't say.
your family has one child in and one child out, so we're gonna let your child in.
Yeah.
We would
You
say.
can't do that.
Right.
Third grade has one seat, and then everybody who want, if there are families that have their kids, one kid in, one kid out, and they want a school choice, the third grader in, they go into a lottery. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think Kathy mentioned that earlier too, we'd have to end up looking at lottery situations.
So, second question is real quick. What is the conversation of school choice? What's the cycle? Can it happen every year, every 2 years, every 5 years?
Well, I think maybe Lorraine can probably speak, Chairman Roscoe can probably speak better about this than I can, because I think historically, what we've tried to do is bring this to the forefront early on, so that the decision is made. We also need it for budget purposes, so that's, again, it's not a big sum of money, but it's something that we need to know, and we're already planning, we're already doing so much planning right now for the 19-20 school year. We need to know if we're gonna fill any additional seats or not, or if there's any stream of money coming in or not. We really need to settle that. So we decided, I wanna say 2 years ago, that we would bring this forward at this time of year rather than waiting later on, so that everybody knew, the rules of engagement now.
Yeah. So every year, every school district has to intentionally decide to participate or not participate and to vote by June 1st, in order to give families the opportunity, if you decide to open it up to school choice. If we don't take an active vote, then we automatically default into school choice. And I think, do you have any more questions?
I have one more that's related.
Okay,
but
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, and I don't know if anyone on the committee has been around long enough to remember when the last decision was made for school choice, whether to do it or not.
We were.
Okay. Okay, so at that time, however long ago that was a few years ago.
We did it every
No.
year.
6
Every
years
year.
You have to do it every year.
No,
No,
but
but-
last time it was in.
Oh, that it
Last
was
time
in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
The last time it was in,
There's 6th graders
there was a
now.
decision to just keep it at the high school. And then the next year, we decided not to offer it at all. But yeah, so Alita's
Okay.
right, there are
Okay.
6th graders now.
So at that time, did we not have the same kinds of growth concerns that we have now? It was just fundamentally a different set of
It
circumstances?
was, just in Bolton alone, when they made the decision, if you wanna talk about the voting, when they looked through it, it was, Stowe wasn't gonna get anybody because we were maxed out. Lancaster had space and Bolton had space. And so, the very first year that they voted it in, I think 62 kids went to Bolton, and you couldn't even get in the driveway. It just
It was-
it was awful. And then they had a whole class of kids just from, and the classes went from 16 to 24, and it was just.
Bolton had 17, 18 kids. This particular situation, and I do think it's fair to share the knowledge, absolutely, again, you know how I feel about it personally,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's fair, and I won't, because I live in Bolton, to hold it against the school choice effort. But because you're a Bolton rep, you should know that what Lynn says is absolutely correct. There was a massive influx. There were classrooms that had a minimum of 5 new children at all different grade levels. So to Superintendent Clenchey's comment before,
Actually, the minimum came in the year after.
the
That's why it
the
was so high.
teachers, what I'm saying is, there were classes that, so the teachers were shell-shocked for 2 years, trying to kind of figure out, trying to identify, what does this child need? We don't know this child, let's learn this child. It was just crazy. The classes went from 17, 18 to 24, 25. It was crazy, and it was a real problem for the residents in Bolton. Parents were upset. The teachers were so respectfully good about it. They never complained to the parents, but you could see it. It was tough. So that's why when we've talked about it in previous years, most of us here, it's been, if we do decide to do it, it needs to be methodical and strategic as far as what classrooms and what grades do we have low numbers, and what's the threshold that we don't want to go past in case we have average normal move-ins, but with the number of housing starts already identified, Lancaster doesn't know what's going on. If we could be strategic about it, and then we could actually bring in more kids in that grade. We just don't know. That tips us into a whole new classroom. And we just heard last school committee meeting, there's no more classrooms in the buildings in order to start a new classroom. So
yeah, we had that discussion last time too, particularly in Lancaster, because they are talking, okay, we're gonna have to bring in some modulars and whatnot. The other thing I would say too, and I didn't allude to this, but I'm gonna bring this up today, at this point in time too. Sometimes it's not always just about numbers, and it makes me think of that when, sometimes we have to look at the composition of the classes. You know, we've got one class, for example, in our district right now that we're keeping a close eye on. It's not the size, it's the needs in that class. So I want to be careful that we don't get ourselves into a situation where we're just looking at numbers alone, because numbers don't tell the whole story. And I know that those of you who are seasoned school committee members remember that we've already done this once or twice now before in my time, where we've had to bring a class up and it had nothing to do with the numbers. It had to do with the composition of that class. They needed a smaller classroom. So I want to be cautious when we're talking numbers, that it's not numbers only that we're looking at.
I need Lynn to weigh in.
No, I just, now I know. I already mentioned, I mean, and Steve brought up, you were great with that. Like I said, I'm on a dead end. And they moved out, they downsized, and 4 families moved in, and they're all little. I mean, it's great, but we don't get those numbers.
You'll have to do trick or treat this year.
I will. I haven't had to do it the past few years.
So does anybody else have any other last thoughts on this? Because,
Kathy?
Well,
yeah,
you know,
do you have more?
Well, just in thinking about, I wasn't aware that you could be, I'll use the word selective, for lack of a better word, that you couldn't discriminate, that people would apply and you had to turn a blind eye to who was. So are you saying that that's not the case?
I'm saying you can't be discriminatory. We cannot. But I am saying that there is the opportunity to potentially move to a lottery system. So
But you don't give preference. Does the law not allow preference for if there is a sibling?
The sibling component, I would have to take a look at. I mean, I think that my perspective on the sibling right now is I understand those parents need and desire and want to get it in. And I think as an administrative team, when we've talked about that, we feel strongly about that too. We understand that. But we're always gonna have to talk about that line, and I know that we've had this discussion many times, to make sure that we are not discriminatory in any way, shape, or form, so.
I guess what I'm thinking out loud, so, which is what I do. So if you looked at the allowing siblings in, you would not be allowing new families in?
I don't wanna,
No, I'm just, cause I don't know.
I wanna go down that road.
I guess my knowledge about it is out of date. And if it's the case that you could give preferential treatment to a sibling, you would be sustaining the families that are here.
But it wouldn't be a sibling, it would be the sibling population of all school choice children in our district.
Right.
You couldn't say,
This family or that
this family, we're gonna take your child, but to the exclusion of everybody else who wants to bring
But
their.
if there wasn't space in a,
Well, it's dependent on
that's part of the
parameters.
issue, yeah.
see, that's what my question would be.
And that's the problem, you're
there's-
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Could there be a lottery of siblings?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that if that's a road that you want us to explore, I would have to pull legal counsel on that to make sure, because I would not wanna put us into a difficult situation at all with that.
Okay, so now that we're here, what do you wanna do?
Need a motion?
I do.
I make a motion that we table school choice.
You table it. You
Well,
want to participate or not participate?
Not participate this year.
Opt out.
Opt out, sorry, opt out.
For the
For the
2020. 2020.
Wow, not
19,
2019,
yeah.
Yeah,
FY
2019, 2020, yes. So
School year.
opt out of school choice for the 2019, 2020 school year.
Okay, I have an opposing motion, or do we just have to let this one float?
You
What
need a
is-
second.
So
and
you-
then
somebody
you
should
can
second it first
Try
and
to
then-
amend if that would work.
Who wants to second it? I will, just so we can start the conversation.
Okay.
What is it that you want to
No,
amend?
I would like a clarification on what we were just talking about, so that we're clear and we understand what it is.
Then I would make a motion to table the vote tonight and come back at the next meeting once the superintendent has clarified the issue.
So we have a motion on the table.
Well, Lynn's motion is on the table.
There's no discussion on a motion to table. It has to be seconded and voted on, and then either
I'm not
progress or do
comfortable
not
doing
progress.
that, so if somebody
That's
else
the way
wants
it
to,
works.
they can,
Well, you have a motion and a second,
right?
and then part of the
An amend-
discussion, I said that I would want to
So it
table
just
the
dies if we
decision-
don't vote.
table the decision until we get clarification on the sibling
Sibling.
aspect of it.
Do you make a motion to table?
I would
I
love
don't
to.
think this is
No,
right.
is that what we do?
This
If you
isn't
do-
right.
We speak
No.
at
So,
Robert's
hang
rules.
No.
hang on a second.
Stop.
Sorry.
Right now, if the discussion takes us down a different road,
We
then
just have
that, you just don't take the vote, and that motion is gonna die, somebody else would have to make a new motion.
well, we would, all right,
Do
so
you have to vote on the motion?
we have to
since it's
vote
seconded?
and let it
To let
die.
it die.
But
So,
so I've made the motion, it died, so if it comes back, I cannot make the motion again, right? But somebody else can?
okay. Hold on a minute.
We have a motion.
We're looking to
No,
the
I-
administration
no,
to
I-
guide us here,
No, I get that.
administration.
You seconded the motion, so
I did.
But the
that
motion
needs
is
to
to
then be
opt out.
voted on.
I know, I
If it
agree.
dies, can that
This is a
actually
second
come
on the
back?
motion on
We
the
need to vote on this motion.
There could be another motion.
And then you can make another one. So, unless somebody has more conversation,
Thank you.
But if we
The-
table it,
I,
it stays.
who,
open to the
who
next
decides to table it? Cause I'm not voting to table it.
meeting. Well, I put out a motion to table. If it's seconded,
We
that
can
has to be
finish.
voted on first, and that has no discussion.
If nobody.
If that passes, then Lynn's motion is put over at least till the next meeting. If it doesn't pass, then we vote on Lynn's motion for tonight. I'm
That's-
sorry, but that's Robert's Rules of Order, believe me.
Well, this is putting us in a pretty ugly
Well,
pickle.
No.
I don't think it is. I don't see it that way. Let's go, if there's no discussion, is there further discussion on,
On
like,
Lynn's.
on Lynn's, like, that's where we started, was on
That's right.
her
I'll withdraw
motion.
the motion to table. That'll make it easier.
Well, then.
I'm gonna
go
move
ahead.
forward and take the vote.
There's a
I was just
second
gonna
on-
say
there's a
that.
All those in favor of Lynn's motion
Which would opt out.
say- to opt out. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 2. The motion passes. Yes, let's do a human resources update.
Anne Marie.
Thank you. Nothing like the mention of human resources update. Clear the room. Oh, stop. Thank you, Ann. And thank you for the opportunity to provide an update for the Human Resources Office. Our last HR update was at the end of August, when we just started the school year, and we talked about hiring and about our new staff. So I thought at this update, I'd focus on our overall staffing and generally the areas in which our office has the honor and privilege of serving the district. First slide shows Nashoba by the numbers. We've got about 525 employees. This slide shows the Unit A employees. The Unit A employees are teachers and other employees that are covered by the Unit A contract, it's 62% of our total staffing belong to teachers, and this is the breakdown. They're all licensed. 78% of our teachers have got professional teacher status. You remember at the last update, I told you that professional teacher status is a career milestone. It's when the teachers have met our high expectations for 3 years in a row, and they've been recommended by their principal to get the old concept of tenure. So 78% of our teachers have got professional teacher status. About 3/4 of our core content teachers have got what we call an SEI endorsement. That is an addition to their license that qualifies them to teach English language learners. Next, Unit C. Thank you, Linda. About 30%, about 159 of our employees are in Unit C. That's our paraprofessional and our support staff. There are 5 categories, the largest being the instructional assistants, and then the secretaries, the administrative assistants, our extended learning staff, food service, and cafeteria. And the last category are our 42 employees who aren't in a unit, aren't in a bargaining unit. These are our unaffiliated employees, the employees who are working under individual contracts. And this is how they're broken. Excuse me. This is how they're broken down. Pat mentioned in her update about the budget process about staffing requests for next year. Next year's staffing requests are just coming into the business office now. They've not been, they're preliminary, they haven't been prioritized, they haven't been evaluated. So it's really too early to say, what there is there, but that will go first to the business office, and then there'll be discussion before it comes over to the human resources office. And on our next slide, I'd like to talk about what our office does to comply with laws, keep us out of legal trouble, and also to make sure that we stay within the law. We answer questions that are related to each of these statutes in the top. That includes, those are typically questions about leave for maternity, for parental leave, and leaves under the Family and Medical Leave Act for staff members who've got a family member or their own serious health condition. Requests for accommodations in the workplace for people who have disabilities of some kind or some kind of a temporary condition that would prompt request for accommodation. And also we answer questions from staff about pay, about overtime, about their benefits eligibility, and also in addition to what the law says, also what the contract says about those things. We also stay current on the district's behalf on new legal requirements. It's just 2 examples. The first one is the Massachusetts Equal Pay Act. It's really called an act to establish pay equity. And what that's prompted our office to do, we're in the process now of doing a self-audit to determine comparable work. Under that statute, the self-audit will disclose, as it seems to be showing, and we expect to show, that we're fine, that we're paying comparable pay for comparable work. But having done the self-audit would insulate the district from liability if we find that that's not the case, as long as we're also making efforts to correct that. We're also, also watching the impact of the Janus decision. Janus is the decision that said that it's no longer going to be required, that employees aren't required to either join the union or to pay an agency fee. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, we're not doing this, we're not hanging out there by ourselves on this. We get advice from our council on how that works as well. The last slide that I have for you.
Very colorful, by the way, Anne-Marie. Very colorful.
I can't take credit for that. The joke, of course, in the HR circle is that human resources, we hire them, we fire them, and we put on the holiday party. These are the, but it's
kind of sick.
I can see that here. It's not in one of your bubbles.
It's so much more than that. We provide advice and guidance to our administrators in all these areas of contract interpretation, employee discipline, performance improvement, and all those things. And we answer questions from the staff about all those areas as well. We help to process the grievances, make responses to those. When needed, our office conducts investigations. We help employees with all their questions related to educator licensure, make sure that everyone is up to date on their licensure, and they all are. The pay, the workers' comp, And then, after people have been with us for many years, even after they leave us, we manage either their unemployment claims or their retiree health benefits and their pensions. I don't want to read all these to you, but there's quite a bit there. I mean, it's just, seems like a lot of stuff, and it's all very exciting. It's such fun work that, like I said, we have the honor and privilege of doing. Before I stand for questions, I want to acknowledge the assistance of my partners, Vicki Chartier. She came to a meeting, several meetings back. In addition to working in the HR, she's our district treasurer. And Darcy Wardwell, who in addition to doing human resources work, is everyone's favorite person because she does the payroll. Alita helps us with our efforts to keep our query and our fingerprinting up to date and current. And she's also, I have to thank her especially for this slides here, because if I had been left to do it, it would have been much less lovely than what you see in front of you here. The visual quality was greatly enhanced by Alita's work.
So, does anyone have questions? Kathy?
One of the things that you don't have here, I don't think it might be under something, is the help you give folks when they decide that they're going to retire. And that's a big thing, and it's important for the folks that are actually going through to understand it and do a great job.
Well, thank you. It is, because you know what? Everyone only does it once, right? So
Hopefully,
that
yes.
nobody has.
You know what, Anne Marie, I think you need to work on Patrick Perkins. He does not. But the one thing
that keeps coming back, right?
I did want to ask do we have, a recommendation for people in terms of letting HR know when they want to retire, or do we just leave it floating? I know it has budget implications.
It does, and there's a date in the contract, although I wouldn't be able to come up with it right now. If they tell us by a certain date, there's an advantage to them. I think it's a little bonus that they get.
Okay.
So that we can make those plans,
Yeah.
To replace them while the pool is deeper rather than when the pool is more
exactly.
shallow.
Yeah.
How are your numbers looking for next year? I know we're not at that point, but do you have any ideas where you might?
I think we've only had 2 or 3 people come forward so far to say that this will be their last year.
But they can change their mind.
Oh, yes, yep. It's still early.
It's
still very early.
Yeah. It's very early, yeah.
And I have a couple of questions.
Oh, sure, go ahead, Lynn.
I don't know if this is yours or not, but are you involved in the evaluations?
I'm not. That's teaching and learning, and the
that's-
principals and the assistant principals.
Just checking. And then, only because it's come up a couple of times, but, we might be talking about this later, but are we gonna be talking about the substitutes at the schools? How that's working out in ASOP?
I can speak to that.
I think she can speak to that right now.
We have 94 active substitutes. About half of them, about 47 of them, work regularly, but not every day. That's the whole idea about being a substitute. You're not going to be working every day. And so we're still short. Statewide, there's a shortage of substitute teachers. Every week on our listserv for school personnel administrators, someone is on there griping about the lack of substitutes. On average, each day, of course it's only October, but this year on average each day, we've had 4 or 5 either teacher or instructional assistant positions district-wide that weren't filled. So that would average out to about, a little bit less than 1 per day, although it's not always quite that clean. When there's professional development, like today we had 6 positions that weren't filled. We had 6 substitutes come in for professional development, so teachers could be released, to go do that. So that always knocks us just a little bit when we've got a large professional development for a large group of teachers. So we've done some things to improve this, to try to improve this. We've changed our ASOP is our substitute booking system. Mm-hmm. And Vicki and Darcy and I all went to a day-long event on ASOP, and we came back with some ideas on how we could fix it. It used to be that we would have, each teacher can list their Fab 5, their 5 substitutes that they prefer to have in their classroom when they're going to be out. And they have what they call a window of opportunity, a window when the teacher puts in that the absence is going to take place. It used to be that the Fab 5 would get a preview. They would see those openings first. The theory being that the teacher would like to have, and we would like to have, the sub that the teacher wants in that classroom. And that was fine, except when there's a lot of time, you know you have something coming up, or you know that you're gonna have professional development. But when the window is shorter, that works against us. So we changed those settings on ASOP so that more subs can see the assignments more quickly. The downside is that sometimes the substitute, it's not the substitute that would be the very first preference, but we thought that that was preferable to having no substitute, so that the window, the fill-up window, we've increased for all the subs.
Now, I just want to be conscientious of our time here, so I just want to say, if we could just wrap up. So then, do you have any other questions?
No.
I didn't want to cut you off, Anne Marie, but
No.
I want to be conscientious of our time.
Well, the only thing I would come from this is that you've got 94 that are active. It sounds like you need more active substitutes. Are we doing anything
We always
to?
need
Yes, we've got 39 inactive substitutes. And that could be something as simple as people who didn't send back to us at the start of the year saying that they were willing to come back. So we're arranging now for a gathering of those people, an invitation for them to come in and reactivate themselves. And that was prompted by a phone call from someone who said, gee, I don't know why I'm not getting, and it turns out that she hadn't turned in her slip to say that she'd like to come back. So that led us to believe that perhaps there are others. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do, is try to see if any of those 39 wish to be reactivated.
So we're actively getting substitutes, good.
Yes, and they're coming in too, which is nice.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne Marie. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So the next topic is early education, K and pre-K tuition fees recommendation for FY20.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask Pat Moroney to come forward. We'll talk through this as quickly as we can to try to stay on target. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things here before we go to the charts that I know that Alita is going to put up here right now. Wanted to remind you that you did not last year did not raise your tuition rates at all. And I want to also remind you that the year before, when we went to raise them, they'd not been raised for an extended period of time. And that created issues for us. And I can still hear us sitting around this table talking about the notion that we need to be doing this on a regular basis. And I know that several of us have lived this and breathed this very issue. And so we don't want to get into that trap again. What we have presented, and I know Pat will kind of jump in here if I miss anything, is that there are three options that we're putting before the school committee tonight. A 2%, a 2.5%, and a 3% increase. This really aligns with the newly minted teacher contract. So 2%, as you'll recall, really represents the COLA.
Cost of living adjustment.
The cost of living adjustment, thank you. The 2.5, for all intents and purposes, from our lens, we look at this and say, this really accounts for the COLA, cost of living adjustment, and some of the lane changes that we experienced. Now, Lita, I don't know, did Anne-Marie give you, can you put that lane, that metric up so I can just remind everyone what we're talking about when we talk about lane changes? And Anne-Marie might even be the best person to speak to this, actually. If you can, I'm sure you can do it in a nutshell here quickly.
I can, very quickly, yep. If you think of it as the salary chart as being like a BMI chart, we've got across the down where it says step 1 to 3 through 13. Those are increases that you get. That's the cost. That's the for just being here for an additional year of service. So the first year you get step 2, then the next year you go down. So that's what you get for years of service. Across to the side is what you get for an educational increment. A teacher coming in with a bachelor's degree, once they accumulate 15 credits, they move over to the side. So a teacher on bachelor step 2, that $54.95, if they get 15 credits in that first year, they would go down 1 and over 1. And the 2% cost of living that Brooke was speaking of would be the fact that the next chart, the numbers in those cells are bigger by 2%.
Right. So when we talk about the 2.5, that's the effort that we're making here to try to make sure that we're covering our lane changes as well. And anticipated lane changes, because we don't always know. Like, as I'm sitting here today, I can't tell you in 6 months what those lane changes will potentially be, because everybody's different. So the 3% that we're suggesting, and we're doing this for both the pre-K and the full K. And so Alita, can we go to the slide deck on here, and if we could please, and go to the first one, which is the full day K? The 3%, when we think of the 3%, we think that in essence what we're trying to capture there is our COLA, our potential lane changes, and the benefits. So remember that the benefits are often more than the 2%. So benefits come into play, but then we also have some folks that might not take that benefit. So that's why we felt comfortable with the 0.5 as being that number. So we present for your perusal this evening the notion of the 2, the 2.5, and the 3. Now the first, sorry.
Previous slide.
Yeah. There we go, thank you. The first two slides, they're identical slides, just different numbers, of course. But the first two is the previous year, 2017 and 18, 2018 and 19, and you see there your $3,250 was the same because you made no changes. If you do the 2% increase, you see it would go to $3,315. The 2.5 would be $3,331, and then your last one, the $3,348. Can you flip down to the next one, please? To the pre-K. Thank you. Again, the first two columns are the same because you made no changes last year, and then you've got your 2%, 2.5, 3%. Alita, do you also have the chart that Pat had created with the monthly? Or do you have that available?
I have some printed copies of it here.
If you want to just even share that. That might not be of interest to everybody, but it basically shows you, in essence, the cost per month to parents. And it kind of ranges like from $5, $6 a month to like $10 extra a month type thing, just to give you a flavor. So that's kind of where you're sitting at. From my lens, I think that at the very least, you need to do a 2%. But honestly, I would prefer to see you go to the 3%. So I'm putting that out there as my recommendation. I open it up for discussion. Pat, did I miss anything?
I don't think you did.
So one of the things before we start taking discussion is the reason that we got to this point of increasing the same percentage as the COLA and the insurance is a recommendation from the forensic auditor.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I really, I'm not going to give an opinion on that. It was hit really hard, and best practice isn't even the phrase we should be using, but we weren't doing the right things. So that is why that recommendation. And last year, the school committee was extremely sensitive about what had happened the previous year. That was, it was unintentionally problematic. And I think that is why we all agreed last year, let's just hold for this year, calm the waters a little bit, and then do this early on. So the only other piece I want to share with you folks before y'all can start your deliberations is the reason, and I have to thank the parent who reached out to me with a question on this, because I think it's very important to share with you. The reason we're discussing the rates now is because the discussion on a recommendation for what to do with K in the broader sense, the bigger discussion that people want to have, the administration has been working for months. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just to move this forward, it's doing the research, talking to other superintendents, talking to other business officers, talking to the state. I mean, an incredible amount of deep and wide research. And they're not ready yet. But if we waited until December or January, I was worried, and that's why, and you were not happy with me. I begged you to bring it forward before November to give our folks, if we decide to do, and this is not a discussion about are we going to do full day K or not, universal K or not. That's not what this is. This is assume that we will or we will not. But this is what our rate would be should we not do universal K, should we maintain what we have. But giving parents enough opportunity to know what those rates would be now in order to plan versus waiting until January. Does not mean we are or we are not going to look at universal K. That will be a discussion. It will be a long discussion, several meeting discussion. This is following the recommendation of the forensic auditor to at least maintain, not increase, but at least maintain what the district is assuming for the cost of living increases and the cost of just maintaining employees to deliver the service. Does that make sense?
No, that's completely right.
Okay, I'm done. Discuss amongst yourselves. Lane.
Okay. No, I appreciate bringing it forward sooner because I know that there were issues with people needing to financially plan and looking at different programs and matching everything up. So I appreciate that, and that forces a decoupling of the two conversations, like you said.
Exactly.
I personally have a really hard time decoupling the two conversations because I believe that only 17% of districts in the state are charging tuition for full day K. So for me, any increase is a step in the wrong direction. So again, I'm coupling those two issues, and I know that we're trying to decouple them, but I can't get past that point in my head for kindergarten. We're just talking about kindergarten, right?
Well, really, pre-K and K.
But are we gonna vote separately on them?
You could.
We could.
You could if you want to,
Okay.
but
I would.
you don't have to. You can do it all in one.
I would recommend voting separately, because for pre-K for me, I don't know, I feel like this should be a separate discussion, but for pre-K for me, it's a totally different story. I totally understand everything that you said. There is a piece missing for me with the pre-K tuition, and that is, I would like to be really strategic about the pre-K tuition, and so what is our goal with that full tuition? Is it to cover the entire program, to make it self-sustaining? Is it just to subsidize the program because we know that students on IEPs don't pay for their services? Or is it just to cover that child's individual costs in the program? Because we're under market rate. So if you're out looking at different private pre-K programs, and everyone offers something different, so sometimes it's hard, but if you look at it like a per hour basis, we're under market rate. Like maybe we should be looking at it bigger picture.
But we don't want to make money. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I think this is
But
a
what is
break-even.
Is it break even for the student? Is it break even for the program? Like, and maybe that's a bigger discussion that we're not gonna
It
have
kind of
right now,
is,
but-
to be honest with you. It is and it isn't, to be honest. I don't know that we want to go into that much detail, quite frankly, because again, we did that a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure that served a lot of purposes, to be honest. But when you look at the pre-K program, we separate it out between the SPED component and the role models. And I know Joan's here if she wants to say anything, to this, if I'm saying anything inappropriate. But we tend to really decouple that to keep it all very clean. So I'm not sure. I think that that's one of your questions. So this is not something that pays for the whole program, because you're absolutely right. The SPED component is separate, completely separate. So those two don't intertwine.
But but it is, in some ways, it's an optional thing. So.
What's an optional thing?
Well, the entire program, right? Like, we need to provide services for the students on IEPs, but we don't necessarily have to do it in this way with this program, right?
But we're not going to evaluate the program.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, when we think about what the goal of the overall tuition is, do we want to think about it in a more strategic way?
I don't know what that means. What does more strategic mean?
Does it mean, are you covering the individual student's cost? Are you you trying to balance some of the,
well, let me ask Pat, what is the cost of the tuition covering for pre-K?
Salaries.
Okay, so that does not take, so to your point that we're under market value, makes sense, because we're only looking at the salaries, we're not looking at the cost of the program itself.
Salaries and some benefits for the.
Once again, that's a human resource side of the program. We're not, this is the same argument we got into last year.
Yeah.
If you want to pay for you have to fully load the cost so you know what to properly
The
charge.
percentage of the insurance,
Fully loaded.
the building, the percentage
building,
of the
heat,
electricity.
the electricity, the this, the
But
that,
if it's been
everything else.
stated that the goal is just to cover the
But it
human
hasn't
resources
been.
cost, then cool.
Kathy,
That's what
here
it's
she
been
comes.
decided.
You put your seatbelt on.
Oh, I know.
No, and I mean, I'm a broken record about this. That, and again, the tuitions have gone up, but 2 or 3 years ago, we were subsidizing the full day K and pre-K to the tune of about $400,000 that the district was paying, essentially giving people who had kids in as typical preschool students a subsidy for tuition and not affording that to anyone else in the district. So I don't know if we know, and perhaps this speaks to what you're trying to get, Aileen. And the typical student in the pre-K, that should be a cost recovery program.
Right.
And what would the tuition be if it was cost recovery, and the same for the kindergarten? That's my question. And I don't know if
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to imply that we should profit off of students,
Oh,
but
no,
these
no,
are
no.
very
It's
unique
just-
situations.
No, I just didn't understand what you meant by
Yeah.
strategic.
Yeah, like the average fourth grader obviously doesn't pay tuition.
Right.
The thing that, and I'm not sure if this really helps to answer the question, but the thing that it's too early for us to take a look at is to evaluate the model changes that we've made and to see if that model in terms of recovery is working better for us. We've got
But we still have the,
preliminary,
we still have
just
the
preliminary
the
numbers.
human resource expense of it, right? Go.
Oh, okay.
Fewer children is
Wait,
fewer revenues.
No, is it my turn? Yes. Okay, so I guess the other part of my point is that will go into our budget. Whatever we have to do to subsidize this, to make it work, both the full day K and this, goes into our budget. And it's gonna be there because we've locked into the tuition, whatever we decide the tuition is, okay? And that's become something in our budget that's inflexible. So if we have to make cuts, not gonna come out of there. So that is my,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more concerned about the financial end of it, not the integrity of the program. I mean, I wish everybody could go for free, we
Yeah.
can't afford that. But I do know that in other districts, the tuition, the typical student tuition is cost recovery, and as well as the tuition for full day K. And we don't do that. And this predates us. We did not create this problem, we're living with the
Fallout.
And you're absolutely right. I agree 100% with what you're saying. You're absolutely right.
Right, but I understand the need for the program, we need to do it, and I think being sensitive to not walloping people with an increase, but we will need to know how much is going into the budget to float this boat. I'm done.
I think someone said, I think Lynn said that we were flatlined for more than 10 years.
Yep,
And then we had that bump up 2 years ago, and then we were stable for a year.
but remember that the bump up didn't cover.
Costs.
Right,
Okay,
understood.
I just wanna make sure you're
Understood.
acknowledging that.
But in all those years, we had adjustments for, we should have had cost of living adjustments, lane changes, and we should have had adjustments to benefits. So where did we derive that money? Like, where did that come from? That if it was, I guess I don't really understand that.
That's exactly Kathy's point.
The budget covered it.
We
Only
did. You
we
did,
covered it.
I did.
But it was
Two times
buried, it didn't see the light of day till about 2 or 3 years ago.
With
It
the
wasn't
forensic
apparent.
audit.
Yes, and that's where we saw how much
Okay,
money.
So this couples back to your.
It's
Right,
exactly
and it
okay.
wasn't just, it was extended day, it was full day K, and it was pre-K.
Okay.
So they should have been cost recovery programs, they weren't, and I think the figure was about $400,000 that was in our budget that we paid for.
So this, I think it's important to note that this is not, it's hard right now because we're changing a cultural mindset, and it's, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, we should have been doing it that way all along.
That's right.
And that's why we're in this position right now. We could make we could have made a conscious effort years ago but that never ever came up. We didn't even know what the dollars were in the accounts because you weren't even given access to them. So, I mean, there was a lot of information that we did not have. We did not have it. We were not given it.
I wasn't making decisions on it.
You were not making decisions. So this is why we find ourselves every year kind of coming back and revisiting, and it's like, how do we be thoughtful about this, think forward in what we're doing as a district, yet be fiscally responsible to the situation that our towns are in. I'm not saying that to say yes or no. I'm just saying that's it. You want to drive education forward. That's the only reason I'm on the school committee, is because I thought we could do better years ago. But then how do we balance where we want to take this? We're recognized as a strong district. I want to get even better. But how do we balance that with the responsibility that these 3 towns have with little to no in its reality, whether we like it or not? And it doesn't make sense to point fingers at the town and say, you should bring more business in or figure out what your problems are, because we are where we are, this is where we are. So that's why this is so icky, and it's a tough discussion.
I think too, the other thing that, to just kind of piggyback onto what Chairman Roscoe was saying, the other thing you have to keep in mind is the level of sensitivity to the young parents that are coming through.
Right.
You know, so we're trying to balance all of this, but I mean, I so appreciate Kathy Codian's points and Lorraine Roscoe's. You're dead on with all of this. So I think historically, had things happened a little different, we wouldn't be having this type of a discussion, and it wouldn't
Every year.
It wouldn't be a difficult discussion.
So going in a slightly different direction now, but whatever we decide, the rate increases for the non.
Both programs.
19, or
Yeah,
20,
so it's FY20, FY20.
Is that going to be a long-term kind of precedent? Like, from that point forward, we should expect that every year we would have to account for that same cost of living, the same benefit
Well, not the
adjustment.
same, but those 3 things you need to be looking at every single year.
Right, so rather than saying, right, because if we look at last year, you said we took a break from those adjustments.
Yeah, we did.
But moving forward, we would say, if we decide to do this, then every year we would have to maintain that percentage. Is that right?
We don't have to, because every year you vote again.
But to be responsible.
Best practice is that you would. That's what we were told, that's what we were encouraged to do, that's what other districts do. Who currently offer a tuition-based program? Yeah, Steve?
I would just like it to be firmly understood by all of the members of the school committee, and perhaps anyone who's looking, that even with these tuition rates, we are not getting full cost recovery.
Right.
Well, that's what
That's what I said.
And that was part of the argument that we had last year, that we should be getting full cost recovery. And I think as we move forward, if we do not change the structure of our all-day kindergarten program, we have to look at doing that. As Eileen said, we're under market because we are not getting full cost recovery.
Kindergarten's a little different story, because when you turn 6, you have to be in some sort of school program in Massachusetts.
That's when you're in first grade,
But I can go with the full cost recovery in pre-K. I'm there. I'm so there.
in pre-K, yeah, for the reg ed kids, yes.
But we don't even know what that amount would be.
What are you saying? She gave you the
No,
amount.
no, no, for full cost recovery.
Oh, for full cost.
We have the options for the upcoming year, and it's not full cost recovery.
No.
No. But to go from what we do now to full cost recovery, we don't know what that would mean. And we did agree that we would look at things incrementally. And the Budget and Warrant Committee came up with a standard related to the teachers' increases.
That's exactly
You
right.
know, looking at it, what it would mean at the kindergarten level, 2% would be $65 a year more, 2.5, 81, and 3% would be $98 a year more. And I did the same thing for the increase.
But to Elaine's point, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Okay.
To Elaine's point, for those who want to move in the direction of universal, I'm playing devil's advocate.
We heard you.
Okay, good. It does feel like we're going in the opposite direction
You know,
from.
if we've been able to absorb a piece of the cost so far,
Right.
why
But what
couldn't we
don't
continue to
have-
work,
right.
to absorb the cost and then work on a plan or see numbers or do something to see if the rest of it is feasible and then come back?
That's what my understanding is,
sense.
that's what administration is working on. So this may be moved if we decide to
Right,
move
right,
ahead.
that's exactly
But
right.
Exactly.
Not
In
gonna
case-
happen
It's not gonna happen at once.
No, but you have to
Could.
plan and then say, no, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Here she comes. Open it up and let it out, girl. You have an opinion. You've been here 9 years. What do you got?
More than that.
No, 9.
Just 9, I thought it was.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
I don't know. No, I'm fine.
I'd like to make a motion that
Wait
we.
a s- let her
Oh, I'm
finish.
sorry, I thought
wanted
you
her to
said you were
speak.
fine.
It's important.
Most of this conversation is gonna be happening in January.
No, this is about rate increases.
Yeah.
This is about what would the tuition rates be irrespective of if we move forward or don't move forward? Because let's say we don't move forward, let's say things stay the way they are.
Yep.
If we don't have this conversation until January, we're,
No, that's not what I'm saying.
no, I'm sorry.
A lot of the conversations going on right now, it isn't just about the money, it's about whether we're going towards it and what's happening. And in black and white, we're just asking, we've got a forensic audit telling us that he's recommending, and I kinda don't wanna go against him.
Right.
And it actually makes sense, because if the teachers are getting an automatic increase every year and they're getting lanes and all this stuff is happening, it's unsustainable. So we have to do something. And yeah, we've been supporting it unknowingly, but our needs keep increasing and the numbers keep increasing. So it may look like we were supporting it, but it's growing, it's been growing. And it's,
The differential between the two.
yeah.
Right. Okay, Steve, did you,
I would like to make a motion that we accept the 3% increase for pre-K and K for fiscal year 20.
What percent?
3?
The 3%.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any conversation? I can't go to 3, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
actually, I'm a little
I
bit.
can't-
Could we amend to split K and pre-K
No, you
votes,
just,
or
you
no?
take the vote and it fails, and then you do another one. So all those in favor of a 3% increase for pre-KK FY '22, all those opposed, 4, the motion fails. Do we have another motion?
I'll make a motion to increase it by 2.5%.
And so I just want to be clear, the 2.5 would cover the 2% COLA that's in the contract right now. And the 0.5% would cover a
The lane.
portion of the lanes and the insurance.
Right.
Okay.
You're doing K and pre-K in both of these?
Yes.
Is it one vote?
Well, what's Lynn's motion?
What's Lynn's motion?
Depends on Lynn's motion. Lynn, were you looking at pre-K and K?
I thought we were talking about them separately, no?
Well, which one?
Which one is your
I was talking
motion?
K. I didn't know we had gone to pre-K.
All right, so if you're talking, so this is K,
So
2.5%.
2.5% increase for kindergarten.
Yeah. And I really want people to understand that any of these increases, proposed increases, are covering expenses that the district has just as a matter of course of doing business,
Only as a
and not even the full amount.
We need somebody to second that.
Yeah, we do need someone to second it. 2.5,
I'll second it.
thank you. Conversation? All those in favor? 4, all those opposed? 1, abstain?
Abstention.
1, the motion passes. It's a 2.5% increase for FY
For K.
20.
That's for
You
K.
still
Now
have
we
K.
have to
For
do
K,
pre-K.
still pre-K.
Pre-K.
Can I move 3%?
Yes, you can.
For
Okay.
pre-K?
For
Yes,
FY
I'll move we
20.
increase tuition for pre-K by 3% for
I'll
the
second.
FY '20.
Second.
We got 1 second. All those in favor? I'm so on that.
Who
Yeah.
seconded it?
It's unanimous.
Yes.
Kathy was the second.
You did good.
Wait a minute. Did we just vote? Why didn't,
Yes,
wanted
we
to
did.
wait.
Were we supposed to cooperate?
I wanted to wait. Too late.
Too late.
Damn it.
And you voted.
Here they come.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Pat's gonna stay there. You're gonna talk about our next item, which is the overnight trip approval.
Sure.
This is the German trip that
So, the high school
At the high school, Nathan Pritchard, of the German
teacher,
he's a German teacher, would like to take,
10 students and 1 chaperone to URI.
10 students and 1 chaperone to URI, University of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Correct? He'll use a small white team bus to transport the students, and he would like a vote of your approval.
So this is for
Because
November
it's over-
2nd?
Oh,
Yeah, because it's an overnight.
November 2nd
Yeah.
to,
So-
November 3rd.
Okay, so I need someone to move a motion that we would approve the overnight field trip for Nathan Pritchard, German teacher, and 10 students and 1 chaperone to attend a field trip at the University of Rhode Island, November 2nd through the 3rd, 2018, and they will be utilizing the district's white team bus.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
So is he driving? I'll second. Is he driving?
I don't know.
Discussion, questions?
Discussions and questions.
Is there a cost associated with it?
I don't have that information.
Yeah,
I would imagine so.
Is he the only chaperone?
yes. I believe it
And
is.
it says the objective sounds good. I don't know if it's an association with anything official, or is it just something that's happening at
do you
the,
have the
I have
back?
that, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I don't think it provides, like, is there an organization that's running it? Is it just through URI and the German department or the STEM?
My understanding was it was just him, so I don't know, we would have to go back and take a look at that.
But we don't have to, we have to.
We don't have
time,
to,
really,
we have to
but-
do it, but I think going forward.
We
I
should
think
ask for
can-
more
Well,
additional
yeah, what
information.
is this
Yeah.
for?
I actually have a problem with one chaperone.
Well, they're high school kids.
And there were 10 of them.
They're still under 18. It's overnight. We need another chaperone.
Well, you can
Yes,
make the
boys
motion,
and
and then
girls?
we can go back and tell him that he.
The motion's on the table.
Can,
Oh, I seconded it, but
Give me a
is it,
second.
are they boys and girls?
I don't know, honestly, I don't know.
They're young adults.
They're under 18.
My God.
I'm sorry. You need too deep here.
Okay, all those in favor? 3. All those opposed? Think about this. 3. The motion is not passing, so now what are we gonna do? You're gonna go back and tell these kids and this teacher, I'm sorry, you can't go.
Is there a policy, is there a policy, do we have a policy about chaperones, chaperones to children in the district?
You know who would know is Susan.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know either.
I just wonder if there's something that does exist.
I mean, if
language
there's no
already.
chaperone, I'm all for it.
It's too late. The vote's been taken. I'm really disappointed. I think you guys just hurt a group of kids.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
I just think that there's a problem with the form. It doesn't provide the information. And I think that there should be, if there is policy related to field trips, it should be attached so that the teacher is aware of it. There's nothing here about cost, where they're staying, any of that stuff. I have no doubt, this sounds great. It just doesn't provide us with
You know
a
what?
lot of information.
You know what? It's, okay. I'm gonna try to keep my stuff together here. It says high school students will work with university students and professors on hands-on STEM experiments while using the target language. These are high school students. It is a teacher. Well, you know what?
But where are they gonna stay? Where are they?
Probably at URI.
But my point is this, that there's a form for approval. And I don't think that, I mean, I voted for it, I agree. I'm willing to go with the benefit of the doubt here, but I'm just saying, moving forward, that we need to look at
I don't disagree with
the
that.
approval thing and get more information. And if I may, it's a week ahead of time.
So-
Do we have policy
So can I-
about how, what the time level is? Because it puts us in a spot. Everybody has legitimate questions, okay?
Right.
Now we're faced with ruining this field trip, but it's next week.
So I would agree, and I think that I'll, if I can just make mention, we had decided that we were going to start to crack down on these field trips because what we found was that field trips were happening unbeknownst to us, and so we started to push forward, and this was a trip that originally we realized was only like a week or two away, and we didn't have appropriate approval. So that's why it is coming to you later than it normally should come. This right now is us going back to our policy and saying we need to tighten up our policy. We sent something out to the staff to make sure that they understood this. So you're going to see, the expectation is that all overnight trips should be coming to this table.
It's kind of unfair to put the school committee in the position that
No,
we've been put in.
I'm not even disagreeing with you. on
Right,
that.
no, and I'm not picking at you,
No,
I'm
no,
just
no, I
saying,
know, I
like,
didn't think that. The truth is, this should have come into our offices sooner. It should have been on the docket sooner. I'm absolutely agreeing with you. And I also agree, Kathy, I think that the form, there needs to be some form changes here. I absolutely
In
agree
the
with you.
absence of policy, you could put together a procedure as a stopgap. But
yeah.
they're gonna stay in a dorm? Where are they staying?
You can create a template.
You know, I know, when I
Right,
went to
totally
college,
right.
All they
I
have
stayed
to
in
do is give a
dorm. There was a lot of
description.
drinking. Is that gonna go, I mean, there's super, I'm just saying,
Wow.
I'm taking it to the nth degree. We don't have a lot of.
all right, moving on,
Yeah.
we just killed it, we're moving on.
Who are the three no's?
So who is driving? is
Who
a
were the three no?
question,
Lynn,
A really important.
Mike, and
Oh, it's
Steve.
Mike.
In terms of liability.
I'm sorry, I
I'm s-
missed, what did you just do?
No, she asked who the three
I didn't know
no's
who
were.
the three no's were.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We're moving on to policy JICH. Getting to your last comment
But we're not allowed to comment.
about
Oh,
drugs and alcohol. But
I
go
just
ahead,
mentioned alcohol.
Superintendent Clenchey. So, policy
in favor.
JICH is in the packet for review. This was a policy, alcohol, tobacco, drug use by students prohibited, that Superintendent Clenchey asked us to fast track in order to get this to allow us to address e-cigarettes, vaping.
That's correct, because it's not in the old policy, and this, if you take a look at the old policy, it's much shorter. This is the newest policy that MASC has circulated. You've already done a first reading on it, so what I'm really looking forward to tonight is a second reading and adopting it. So that and then what we have planned right now is that we will send this out right away within the next couple of days to all of our high school parents and students so that they see what the policy is. So I'm asking that you please adopt this policy this evening.
I don't think there should be much conversation unless somebody's got something. Lynn, you're on policy, anything that you feel important that came up at the table?
Only that we need to fast track it so that.
Here we go.
So are you saying that because this policy wasn't in place, there were things that you couldn't do to address the issues?
We have continuously addressed the issues. We continuously address the issues. And it's interesting at both the middle school and the high school level. So progressive discipline has been going on without this policy in place. However, I like to have the T's crossed and the I's dotted. I really need the policy to support the discipline, the progressive discipline that we've been using.
I was just saying, like, I don't think any kid is drinking or smoking or not drinking and smoking because there's a policy.
Yeah, no, this is.
No, it allows them to act.
Yeah, it allows us to just.
Okay, so, I need someone to move adoption of policy JICH, alcohol, tobacco, and drug use by students prohibited.
So moved.
Second.
Steve seconded. Any conversation? Or adoption of the policy. All those in favor? It's unanimous. MCAS, I'm hoping that everybody took the time to look through the stuff in the packet, because we are not going to go through every page.
Yeah, but Martina,
We're not.
We're gonna
We've
highlight
chosen-
quickly.
This was a result, excuse me a second, this was a result of a request to have more information about grade level. Okay, you can go ahead and do that.
So I'm going to steal Superintendent Clenchey's phrase that I'm going to tee this up for Martina. So what we have provided for you in your packets is the report for exactly what you asked for. So what we have done is disaggregated the data by grade level. We've also disaggregated the data by subgroup in this packet, and wanted to do that for you. We've also disaggregated it too by our ELL population, grades 3 through 8 only, because we don't have the data for ELL at the high school level, given the amount of students population for that group at the high school level. And in terms of the presentation, I guess Alita's gone. Okay. You might be able to get it up there. What we did was Martina and I pulled out 3 pieces of data from the packet that you have, and what we wanted to do was provide a differentiated grade level. So you're going to see a piece from the elementary, the middle, and the high school. We also differentiated the groups, and then we differentiated the content areas, and the data that we've picked out to highlight from these charts are data that specifically tie to the work that are associated with our district improvement plan. So I'll hand it over to Martina to explain the 3 graphs that we picked out, just to kind of highlight in terms of our progress as it relates to K-5 literacy, the co-teaching model in grade 6, and then at the high school level, science, technology, and engineering, because that is a newer test in a newer field, in an area that we continue to work to progress it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so I will be keeping this very brief, just because there's a lot of data and we wanted to give the opportunity to ask questions. So we decided to just sort of focus our story on recent initiatives through our district improvement plan, and then use the data to kind of highlight that. So you all know, I think, that we embarked on a literacy initiative last year being the first full year of that initiative, where the teaching staff in grades K-5 has participated in a lot of intensive professional development to implement the Readers and Writers Workshop and do a lot of curriculum work around that. And we feel that that's going very well. The feedback from staff is extremely positive. They're seeing some really strong work from students, and we were really pleased to see that our ELA data for grades 3 to 5 also spoke to that. We chose to highlight grade 4 because last year was also the first year that that grade took a computer-based test alongside this new initiative. And I just wanted to note particularly that in comparison to the year before, we saw a significant shift to the left in an increased number of students meeting or exceeding the expectations. So we're excited to continue supporting this work. This year the staff is continuing professional development work along this, working with some new units. We're using a group from Teachers College in New York City who published some ELA units. So we think it's going really well, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, it's really strong professional development from a reading and a writing standpoint. And we've also talked, I think we were talking today, how teachers at the middle school level and the high school level are going to kind of drop down and visit those K-5 classes to see the success in those programs, because Reader and Writers Workshop certainly can move into the middle school level, as well as it's even moving into the high school level now in terms of the models that schools are using. So there's that systemic, consistent move throughout the K-12 experience here in the district.
Perfect. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is this again marks a shift in our planning, our teachers' planning, from content to skills. So we've had that conversation a lot about, we're expecting different things of our students now in the day and age of technology and just in this century. So the next slide highlights co-teaching. We started talking about that a little bit last time I was here. This is now, I should also note, this is the achievement data for mathematics grade 6 students with disabilities specifically. And again, we're seeing from one year to the next a reduction in the number of students who are not meeting expectations, and growth in the students partially meeting and meeting as well. So we're really excited about that. We don't know that that's a trend yet because it's only the second day of kind of living with this form of data, but we're really happy to see that we're moving in a positive direction, at least with this data. That those teaching teams in grade 6 last year was the first year that all 3 middle schools had a co-taught model in grade 6. This year, all of our middle schools, all grades, have a co-taught model. Not all classes, not all sections in all grades, but every grade has at least one co-taught math class. And we've supported teachers with a lot of professional development this year. We'll continue with coaching in their classrooms, so we're really excited about it. We're hearing, again, a lot of good things come out of it.
And there's tremendous support from the principals at each level, at each school, and the desire to send more and more teachers to that training, particularly the one that's coming up in January. We spoke about this morning.
This last graph is the science, technology, and engineering graph for all students at grade 10. As Todd mentioned, that this was a new assessment, at least in terms of the questions last year. Again, we're moving with all assessments going towards this next generation concept. In a couple years, this one will also be computer-based. But last year, at least, it included different types of questions, more application questions. So we chose this graph because of the different tests, but also because we feel like it is pointing towards still some increased need in terms of looking at different programming in high school, which we're starting to do in conjunction with the science department. They are looking at different ways we can support our students in biology class. And a reminder that we just shifted the freshman year to be almost all physics with a smaller number of students taking engineering to again attempt to build some foundational skills that hopefully will serve students going forward in their high school years.
And this particular piece too, I think is really, really important data as it relates to STEM, because Massachusetts is really behind a pathways program that is really preparing kids for college and career, not just college. And this is one of the indicators of that, and providing pathways and pathway programs for students so that when they branch off beyond high school, some of them may be choosing a college path, but some of them also might be choosing a career beyond high school. And I think that this particular genre and discipline speaks to both of those pathways.
Any questions?
Great, that's it.
Any questions? Thank you both for.
If you have further questions too on what is in this packet, we certainly, because there's a lot of graphs on a lot of different groups in here, but we wanted to highlight those that
Kathy
relate
has a question.
particularly to the data.
And Lynn.
First of all, thank you. And I think that moving forward, when we get our MCAS presentation, it would be good to have the disaggregated data. And I think that one of the things I have questions about, and your narrative sort of spoke to it, is growth from the previous year. So it'd be good to see that represented graphically. The other thing is, I don't know if you have the ability using the DESE, is it Edwin that they use still?
Edwin Analytics, yeah.
Will Edwin pull a cohort for you? Meaning that it would be good, because what we should be looking at, and I think this is great, and it's the professional development, the curriculum initiatives that you're doing, I think they stand alone. They may or may not relate directly to the MCAS, but as standalones, and I'll get to that in a minute, they're fabulous. But if we could see growth over time, if you pulled a cohort from 10th grade backwards and disaggregated the data by regular ed, special ed, high needs kids, that would be good information to see, because I'm sure you'd see growth even in this special education population, where still you're going to see from year to year that they're the ones concentrated in partially meeting expectations and not meeting expectations. So I guess making the information more relevant for us in that way. And you could do the same thing with 8th grade, a cohort from 8th grade backwards, just so that we see that.
Yeah, and I think that that's been tough for us because the test has changed. So this is only the for 10th grade hasn't even taken the next
Right.
generation, and they
Right.
will do so. So last year we had to do a pilot with them that didn't even count. You know, it was a practice test.
Okay.
And same thing with, 3 through 8. This is only the second year of the next generation, so we
Yeah.
only have 2 years of comparable data to look at.
Sure.
So, I mean, even when kiddos, like my daughter got her test today, and
Yeah.
this is, it's hard for her to us to compare even 2 years ago,
Right.
because they keep changing the test. And so we hear that, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of leaders continue to struggle because we can't provide that because it's not comparable. Same thing with
Sure.
the accountability data.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
And then the other thing about the curriculum initiatives here, and we started to talk about it last year and the year before, but given the state you found us in when you arrived, we knew that there were some things we had to wait to do. This is annual assessment data, it's a state test. What are the assessments that we do that show growth? And how do you focus attention on those students and special needs? And a lot of kids take in the MCAS who have special needs below grade level in reading and math skills. So, but how do we measure their progress and growth? What are the types of measures that we look at? And for another time,
Okay.
another discussion,
Okay. She wants to answer your question.
Okay, I'm sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna say.
Take a breath.
That's another whole
Right.
huge component.
I
think
understand
that
that.
would be Joan and Martina and a
Right.
whole slew of people to bring to the
But this
table on
isn't
that.
all there is to assessment.
No,
This is the
you're
big
exactly right.
flashy Boston Globe, and we do great, and that's awesome. But I wanted boots on the ground, day to day.
You want
what
local
it's
data.
doing.
You want that local data
I
that's
do.
pointing to.
And what are the common
and you're
assessments that
absolutely-
kids have?
And that
Yeah.
K through 5 literacy program that we're doing, we will have that data.
All right, no, and I just had to
Absolutely.
make the statement about
Yeah,
it.
and
Thank
you're
you for this
absolutely
work.
right.
And as we present MCAS information in the future, I would really appreciate it if it was disaggregated the way you've done it here.
Great.
Thank you.
Good. That means you nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah, you heeded and I know when we asked, it was like, that's a lot of work. So really appreciate that. Elaine, you have a
There's a lot of
question?
info.
Yeah, no, I love this as well. Like, I'm a data junkie. It's actually what I do for a living. So I was cutting, literally slicing and dicing this all to look at. It was awesome. So a couple methodology questions so that I make sure I understand this. To Kathy's point, or to Assistant Superintendent McGuire's point about us not having a lot of year-over-year data because the tests have changed, how comparable is it to take this year's 3rd graders and this year's 6th graders and sort of assume that there's a correlation there between any 3rd grader taking a test or any 4th grader, any 5th grader, so that we can sort of, they're different kids, but we can sort of use them for growth comparisons?
I'm gonna say not yet. So
Okay.
in changing the test, the state took on a huge recalibration. Each year, the test calibration was different and it was never vertically aligned until last year.
Okay.
So last year, they they recalibrated, and they recalibrated vertically as well. So in the future, 2 years down the line, we'll be able to take a 3rd grade class, look at them in 6th grade and be able to say something about it.
Right, but could we look at this year's 3rd graders and this year's 6th graders and then make assumptions about curriculum changes and their effect? So like there are gains in the co-teaching model from, if you looked at this 5th grade data and this 6th grade data, I'm like, yeah, you see a bump from 5th grade to 6th grade. Some of those gains went away in 7th and 8th grade, and I'm like, but these are different kids, so I don't know how fair it is
Exactly.
to
There's so much.
compare that.
I just don't
But I
think
mean,
we can.
but lack of anything else.
Yeah.
But what we can do, and that's where I was saying, we saw at least a shift, we just looked at last year's to this year. And there, at least in 6th grade, was a significant enough shift for me to feel comfortable saying it here. But we just don't know what the factor was. There are so many, and it's only 2 years, so.
And then the other one was in all students. Does that include the students like with disabilities and
Yes.
economically
Absolutely.
disadvantaged? Yeah, so if we really wanted to compare those subgroups, we should probably pull out the subgroups and all students because is like everybody left over, like a typical student.
Right, so this is all students. When we look at the previous students with disabilities, there is actually a graphic that you can generate alongside that. That's everybody else.
Everybody else, okay.
There is.
Yeah, because those will show differences between the subgroups even more so.
Absolutely, yeah. And when we go through this internally, we
Do that.
look at everything.
You know, I'm sure. It's like when you're putting
Each
your
individual
argument,
student.
say this works or this didn't
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
Like, those would be really good.
Yep, go ahead, ask Martina.
You didn't say specifically, but the way the trend is going, are we not doing engineering in the future? Are we doing something similar to it, or are we phasing that out?
So this, okay, so I still have not gotten a full answer from the state on this. They are recommending to the Board of Ed to not fund the MCAS for engineering. And so we look at this as an opportunity, if that were to happen, to kind of relook at our engineering courses, engineering future included in that, to make sure that they're really designed in the way that they're intended and not a funnel to the MCAS, should that go away.
Oh, that's the way it should be anyway, right?
You're absolutely right.
Wow, what a great idea.
Good question.
Congratulations, I love that. Okay,
Is that it?
subcommittee reports.
Thank you, Martina.
Thank you, Martina.
Very much, both of you.
Thank you, Todd.
Budget and warrant, I know we didn't have it.
We didn't have it, and the previous meeting was a whole 5 minutes long. We have the minutes that, we were gonna approve those today, but
Thank
we
you.
did not have a quorum today, so we were unable to have a meeting.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Personnel,
Personnel met on, recently, last week, whenever we met, last Wednesday. And we're working on revising the school committee manual. And we had a really great discussion, and Elaine and Mike have some really great ideas how to make the manual more relevant, especially for new folks, new to the committee. And so we'll be continuing to develop that. And then we have, we had to change our November meeting from the 14th to the 27th because we have a school committee meeting on the 14th. And we have to change our December meeting because Tri-Town's on the 12th, and we haven't set a meeting for December yet.
okay, thank you. Policy, well, you had a policy on the agenda, so.
You met with Dorothy.
Okay, how's the, policy book coming?
With Dorothy?
Yeah, are you guys almost, do you think you're gonna be
Yeah,
able to
she's in-
wrap it up this year?
She's in the home stretch. We have a deadline. She leaves in May.
She leaves what?
Her term is done. Not Dorothy, but Susan.
Oh.
Susan knows it all.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, yeah, but you guys could step in to finish. You guys could step in to finish that work.
I don't know, we really miss her.
I know, poor Susan. All right, CPAC.
CPAC had a very successful fundraiser. They were the featured nonprofit for the cause event at Not Your Average Joe's, and district families participated in the, and CPAC was able to get $286.72 for the Friends of Nashoba CPAC. And the funds are going to be used to start a program that will recognize special educators and interventionalists for their commitment to our district. The fall business meeting was held on October 9th. Topics discussed included fundraising efforts, the CPAC STARS program, communication models, and support groups. And meeting minutes will be posted once voted at the next meeting. There were 2 workshops since the last report out. One, empowering children by improving reading comprehension and study skills, and meet the director of pupil and personal services. Be a workshop on Tuesday, October 30th, hosted by the Federation for Children with Special Needs. The presentation is entitled An IEP for My Child. The presentation will delve into the individual education program document, its development, the breakdown of each section, and understanding how the document will support a child.
So, I think that the CPAC chairs, one of whom is here, deserves a lot of credit for the work that's been going on over the past several months.
Well, it's been a
Indeed.
group effort too, and Joan's been very helpful all along the way with making sure that, you know, we're getting everything we need, and it's been a very responsive effort, so I'd say
That's
it's a
wonderful.
group effort all around.
You deserve
you.
such kudos for that. Thank you. Okay, communication advisory, I'm gonna toss it over to you, Elaine. We didn't have a
Oh,
meeting?
right. Sorry, Elise would have reported. We did meet, no, I think the last time we met was before the last school committee meeting. We haven't met since.
Right.
And we are still TBD on the next meeting date based on Elisa's work schedule.
Okay.
Things have been changing, so she wasn't sure when she'd be available.
Okay.
So, we'll loop back on that.
Emergency response, there's no, oh, and I'll get to audit advisor, I'm sorry, I skipped over you. Emergency response, Steve's gonna step in on that one for us. So audit advisory, I know you met.
Yay! We had our inaugural meeting last week, and so our Stowe representative, who is also going to chair the committee, is Mark Jones. He'll be a familiar name to everybody. Our Bolton representative, who's also going to be the secretary of the committee, is Dave Yesway, who you may also have heard of. The Lancaster representative is still open, so I guess Kathy tonight, since Elisa and Susan are here.
The other Kathy. So you want me to find somebody? You don't want me on it,
No,
right?
we are still looking for a Lancaster representative to be on the audit advisory committee. So if you know anyone, I mean, we've been in contact through official channels and things,
Eagle Ridge
but.
Development, I will approach some of the elderly people walking and see if I can interest anyone. Actually, there's somebody that might want to do it.
Go talk to them because Lancaster, we need your people.
Yep.
Yes,
We need your peeps,
and so
man.
we just walked through the timeline of an audit that helped us out what is going to happen this year and moving forward. And right now, we're just waiting for the auditors to come back in like a month, maybe 2 months, to do that work. So we probably won't be meeting again until that happens.
Nice job. Thank you. Correspondence. Y'all saw some correspondence.
Yes, we did.
I think Superintendent Clenchey alluded to the email that everyone received.
Yeah, I think you addressed everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think we got a couple of emails about the K and pre-K. I didn't understand I'm glad we had this discussion tonight, because I looked at it and looked like it was 3 years of the same year, and I couldn't understand it, so.
Yeah, we needed to go back and do a better job on that, but I felt good about the end product. I thought it was good.
So, before I talk about the consent agenda, I have a question for the administration to help guide us. If we take a vote on something and we want to reverse the vote, isn't it the individuals that voted yes can do that? Is that correct? Not reverse it, but then bring it up for another vote? Is that correct?
You know, I
Why
don't have an answer.
people that would bring it up?
It wouldn't be the no people, because they turned it down, right, Lynn?
And we went through this before, yeah. It was the yes people can bring it back up.
It was the yes
An
people.
affirmative vote,
Reconsideration.
an affirmative vote can bring a motion back to
Bring
a
it back up.
table.
I would like to
Non-affirmative
consider
can't.
doing that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Why don't you tell them why?
Are you
Yeah.
talking about the trip
Yeah,
here?
let's give them the
So,
information.
Again, Alita just brought it into me, and it looks like the teacher submitted some additional information tonight, but it's still not the kind of thing that you're asking, but it's a little bit more information on the trip, on the proposed trip itself. So this is what we got. This doesn't take away, though, from the fact that we need to make changes to the forms. We need to
And
get
the
the
timeline.
time frame.
Yeah.
This is not a school committee issue, and to your point, it leaves the school committee in an awful position. I completely agree. And I will also say that I am completely prepared to go back with a no. Like, I mean, if that is your decision, I'm prepared to do that.
And to be fair, this what's in our packet was signed, what was the 19th? Was that Friday?
Yeah.
So they signed it on Friday and then they bring it.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're
Okay.
saying. I'm
So
not.
I almost feel like if this doesn't go any further than where it's gone, those kids need to know, they need an apology.
Yeah. This is not the kids'
From the
issue.
teacher.
It's the adults.
Right,
It's
that's
the
what I'm
adults in the
saying.
room. I'm
Okay.
totally agreeing
Well,
with
we
you.
don't want to punish the kids for a mistake that was
Right.
made by the adults.
But that's what's
completely- yeah,
happened
This
here.
is what's happening, yes.
I
But
completely agree
anyway,
with you.
Anyway.
So I'm just going to read you a little bit of this here. And, you know, the German and STEM are a perfect combination. It is to be held at the University of Rhode Island from Friday the 11th to Saturday the 3rd. And the reason it's coming here is because it's an overnight, right? The knowledge of German can not only open your way to studying at one of the many excellent free universities in Germany, it can also be the key to employment with one of the leading German engineering firms worldwide. So it looks like there's different activities, different workshops that are available for kids.
This part.
Sorry, I was gonna say, the participation is free, offered a limited number of grants for high schools, up to $250 per grant to subsidize transportation costs. Honestly, I really go back to, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think the kids should suffer because the adults did not do the job that they needed to do on this. I think, Lynn, your point is well taken, although Todd slipped me a note right away to say that actually the 10-to-1 is the normal number.
It says
of
it in
field trips,
here.
so.
It says it in here, right?
I would,
Per school, we offer 10 places for students. For schools traveling far and lodging
Right.
for students
But
and
that-
teachers.
I actually
do we have-
one chaperone.
right, and I understand that. But you could also make the motion and say, we accept this with the
Stipulation.
Yeah, I have to practice that word.
Caveat.
So that we come back and say,
Stipulation.
yeah, with a stipulation that you can take the trip, but we want one additional chaperone.
Okay.
So I don't have any problems with doing something like
I mean, I
that.
think it's great, I just,
Okay,
I
hold
just
on.
have a problem with it.
Let her finish up. Kathy, go ahead and
Where are
then
they
Mike.
staying?
URI.
And it's a big place.
Except.
Oh my God, they're staying in room 302. Does that help?
What dorm? Are they staying in a dorm? Are they staying in a guest
Right.
house?
I understand.
Where are they staying?
These
Who
are
they
young
staying
adults.
with?
These are young adults.
Oh, yeah, right, and everybody, never mind, just go, where are they staying? Do they say where they're staying? Is there?
Why do you keep pulling this away from me? I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. This is just such a, okay. The cost for lodging, yes, it was. Cost for lodging for students based on 2 nights, 4 students is $6, whatever. Teachers can request, okay, where the hell is it? I get swore again. Participants, International Engineering Colloquium
It's
in
too,
North.
it's too nice.
So that's the name of
It's
it.
just one night.
Yeah.
It's just a one night.
One night.
And to Chairman Ramosko's point, it is one night, it's high school kids, it's only 10 kids, it's a very specialized trip. They're not gonna get a lot of opportunities like this. I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of German STEM opportunities out there, you know, so.
No, I think it's great, but
What's our liability? What's the insurance if something goes wrong? You gotta ask the questions, I'm sorry.
Kathy, let me ask you something,
Yes.
all right? How come you don't ask these questions when the kids go up to whatever it's called? Nature's
I
Classroom.
did, I always did.
Well, why would it be any different? It's the school district that's covered with the insurance.
Because there's a
not
difference
a
between a
grade.
6th grader and a 17 and 18-year-old kid on a college campus. That's, all right, am I naive?
You know what? I tend to trust these kids until they give me a reason not to.
And
And
if
so
they're
far,
there,
knock on wood,
and-
mine haven't ended up in jail.
All
At
I'm
the
saying
end
is,
of all of this, if you go to take another vote, you can vote against it, and it's not, and we have to respect the decision. We all have different opinions that we bring to this table. If you want to go back after a different vote, you can do that.
Thoughts?
It sounds like a formalized program.
It
This
is.
doesn't
Would you
sound
like to
a
see? I mean,
one-off
it's just
thing
we're
that they're
getting this
going
at the
to,
last
yeah.
minute. It's kind of a
This
mess.
came in late this
understand.
afternoon.
It's just like we said, it's just a really tough position to be put in.
Totally
Because if
agree.
it was submitted earlier, we could say,
Yeah.
here are the concerns we
Here are
have, just
questions.
make a
Come back
decision.
with more information. You're
Indeed.
absolutely right. I am not disagreeing with you.
So I mean, my initial thought was it's never going to be like going against what's in the interest of kids. I mean, no one would say no on that account. Never. It would never be. It's actually the opposite. It'd be in the protection of kids. That's really what it's about. It's not
Exactly
about
right.
going against opportunities.
exactly.
I just don't understand. This is not like a teacher's not coming forward with this. It's like, I'm not getting it. All right, so why don't we do this?
Can I just add one more thing?
What's
Just
that?
as somebody who has traveled extensively with kids overnight, for weeks at a time, presenting this was in terms of the specific program and what it offers. The one thing on that form that has concerns for me is who is driving the van. That for me as somebody, I want to know who's driving the van. Is it a licensed school bus driver with insurance, or is it and if it is
a teacher?
If it is a teacher, does that teacher have the proper?
This is a mess.
Yeah, but
But because they only gave us a week
You're right.
to decide, and do we have a policy about teachers driving students?
That
Well, we
just
do,
having some
'cause there was-
been in that predicament before. That's what.
I'm also gonna go down a higher road on this and say, I would suspect, but I don't know because it's not written on the sheet, that the teacher, if I go back tomorrow, would have all of these answers
Yes.
at the tip of their tongue.
Well, then-
I'm not guaranteeing that, I'm saying that would be my expectation, but it's not written on here, so I understand why you're hesitating. Having said that, though, I support them doing this.
So I'm wondering.
I don't have a vote, though.
So is it
That
just a
was easy
standard
for you.
permission slip that goes out with these things?
Pardon?
Is it just a standard permission slip that goes out with these things? You know,
I know what she's
intimidating,
asking.
But I'm like, okay, so.
Do the parents know what we don't know?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I want them to be fully aware of what is going on. You know, and I always get more than 10 kids in the class, so I don't know how these kids are even being picked,
Yeah.
but, and they're picking up the cost for it, that's not coming onto us at all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the big thing that gets me is, like, the bus driver's a big thing, and the chaperone, if you wanna modify it for a chaperone, and I'd love to see what the permission slip looks like, but.
Well,
We have to be cautious about how deep, that's why I say I would assume that the administration has got
Well,
answers on
because
this
there's
as
really
well.
nothing on that.
No, not disagreeing with you.
I would even say if next week, I know you don't wanna hear this.
No.
But if you could go to that teacher and the principal and whomever and say, okay, like, you created a very big mess here, here's all the information we want. I don't know that I can promise this, because I don't know if we would be able to pull a quorum together next week in order to get this done, but I would be willing to come at night after work.
Yeah,
I'd be willing to.
yeah.
I would too, but I wanna see what changes are gonna be made. Lynn brings up a good point. You know, we're agreeing to something, what's the parents' expectation? We need to see the permission slip. This is
All
a
right,
mess.
so
It's
let's
short,
find out what we
coarse,
need to
and-
find out, and
Yep.
so then we can look at some date next week. What's the permission slip look like? Who's driving the bus? Yeah, and we need at least one more chaperone.
Where they're staying.
And I think the teacher should come in and ask us for it.
I think you're absolutely right.
No, I mean, seriously, it's
No,
like,
I'm
the
serious.
teacher should know more about it.
Can
I'm
I
sorry,
just
we
add
can't
one
take
more
up
thing?
questions,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Of course you can.
No, no, what, Mike?
Is this the form that they should be filling out, or is there more that they have missed?
What she's probably getting at is, what was the letter that went home to parents to explain what this thing is and what the details are?
I also agree with the notion that normally overnight trips should have a teacher who's being responsible for that coming and presenting to the school committee.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? In the past, the principals have come to talk to us about overnight trips, so that they would have the information.
Yeah, but you know what, Kat? I think the teacher should come.
I agree. I agree.
So I'm willing to come in next week,
Yep.
but only because you've changed how things are happening and you've changed the culture of these field trips, but I don't want to do it again. And I don't think it should happen again.
Yeah, well, me either.
But
Me
I
either,
don't want
because
to hurt the
it's-
kids because.
How am I gonna get out of the, well,
I
okay.
can share it. I can be here.
As long as we've got a quorum.
We need a quorum.
We just need the
As
quorum.
long as it's before Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm gone Thursday.
Okay, but you know what, I should be able to pull this together pretty quickly.
All right.
We'll have to post right away.
48 hours to
Yeah.
post.
That would be oh, honey, no way. That's Halloween. You gonna do it on Halloween? You won't.
No, actually, that'll be gone.
You won't.
No,
How many do we
has to be
need?
Tuesday,
We need 5
the
people?
latest.
I can't do it
Can't we do
Tuesday.
it telephonically, or?
No.
No.
The quorum has to be in the room.
The only agenda item would be to vote on this.
Yep.
We could do it Monday night.
What time?
I can do Monday.
I'm sorry, I can't get here till 7. I
I
can't
can,
take.
if you can get 5,
If you
I
can
can
get 5,
share
she
it.
can share, yeah.
Yep.
We'll be on the phone.
I'll have my kids with me.
That's fine.
That's okay, it'll be like
We'll bring snacks.
it'll be a 10-minute meeting, 15-minute meeting.
All right,
So what time? Monday the 29th?
6:30?
Just do it at 7.
We can do it at we can do it.
You're gonna do it at 6:30, do it at 7.
I can't do 7. I gotta be somewhere.
All right.
Why don't we all
Nobody
give
shares a
Alita,
time.
if she would please let Alita know if you can do it Monday and what time.
I can do it
I
anytime,
have to post
anybody
tomorrow.
can do it on Monday.
You have to post tomorrow.
So put a 2-hour frame. Yeah, put a 2-hour frame.
Want to make it for 7 is fine.
I can do 7.
I think I'd have to do 7, my son has basketball practice
7 o'clock
until
is-
7.
That's,
Until 7,
Yeah.
okay. Monday at 7.
Can you?
Yep,
And what about,
anytime.
you want to check with Elise and Susan? Maybe they can,
we'll send something out.
Yeah,
Elena,
please
send
do.
something out.
Put it up at 7, you'll be good too.
so what?
She can even come 6 and just wear a mask. We'll be here
All right.
gone.
All right, we're moving on. Thank you, everyone, for that.
Then you'll have to take minutes because I can't be here. If it's a 7, I can be there.
We'll get somebody to
I'll
take
do
the
minutes.
minutes.
I'll do
Okay,
5 minutes.
consent agenda, we're gonna assume it's approved for meeting minutes of October 10th, 2018, and the warrants of October 26th. Everyone, don't forget to sign them, and thank you. Agenda items for next meeting. We have to add an executive session to discuss the strategy for the superintendent's contract, successor contract.
You can take school choice hearing vote off for November 14th.
Yep, I did.
I think that's it. Can someone please give me a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. And Kathy seconded. All those in favor? Mike, there's 4 of us. All those opposed?
We're wanting to adjourn, Steve. We're taking a vote.
Do you want to adjourn?
I'll adjourn, yes. I'll.
Oh, good.
Okay. Good night.